Wow.
So maybe 6 months later, I was talking to my daughter on the phone, 6 months later, and I mentioned her, and I said, it's horrible what happened. She goes, what happened? I told her she couldn't talk.
Yeah.
And I believe she saved Nicole's life. Nicole she had eating disorder.
Yeah.
And,
He's always in
you can
the
feel free
driver's
to
seat.
drive too if you want to steer things in a certain direction. By all means, man. I got get your little intro, your very short intro. So pull this up. Just make sure this is right. I'm going to make sure this is right first before 37-year career with the New York State Police, achieved the rank of Sergeant Station Commander. Is that right? Sergeant Station Commander?
Yeah, that's
okay.
Right.
Led state police stations in Sylvan Beach, Herkimer, and Marcy, involved in numerous community safety activities, including school programs, child passenger safety, and improved driving enforcement. Recipient of the Oneida County District Attorney's Distinguished Law Enforcement Officer of the Year Award 2009, current Chief of Police of the Village of Boonville, New York. Is that all accurate?
Ish.
Ish?
So 32 years with the state police.
Okay.
And like 6.5 with the sheriff's office.
Yeah, why did it do that? That was AI, by the way.
Yeah.
So
AI is not always accurate.
All right.
But you know what? That is your intro, Dave Olney. I appreciate you bringing us in here, man. This is an absolute honor.
Thank you for coming.
Exciting.
Yeah, it's weird. I was more excited for this, I think, than just about anybody I've talked to. Mainly
excited and nervous.
I was nervous.
Yeah.
Less nervous after talking to you, but for people that don't know, I used to work here from 2011 to 2013 and my first detail was the Kurt Wyman detail, and lo and behold, that seems to be a lot of things kind of link up between us.
Yeah, that's funny. That's very funny.
Yeah, why don't you tell us about where you were raised and start off
like your childhood
if you want.
Yeah.
Sure. My earliest, I was actually born in Rome on Griffiths Air Force Base. My dad was Air Force back then, so I was born on the Air Force Base. Grew up in Woodgate. I went to school at a one-room schoolhouse, which was 2 buildings up from my house in Woodgate. It's still there, but it's not a schoolhouse. So I went there until the end of 3rd grade, and then from 4th to 12th, I was in Old Forge in the Town of Webb High School, the Town of Webb School, where I graduated in 1984.
Yep.
So I grew up there, my first job up there, all my friends up there. I had 32 people in my graduating class. We just had our 40th anniversary, 40th high school graduation anniversary last year. And it's funny, it was June 21st, first day of summer. And a friend of mine, dear friend of mine, he owns the Big M in Old Forge, Bob Diorio. Those of us that got together, there were maybe 10 of us or 12 of us that got together, and we went out on this big party barge. And when we came back, I stepped off the party barge and I took my phone out and I did something. Dana said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I just set a countdown timer." And she said, "What?" I go, "I'm not going to be working for the state police this time next year." I like my summers.
Yeah.
And I just, that's when I just first started thinking about what I was going to do. But so I grew up in Old Forge. I was all set to go to Clarkson University to be a mechanical engineer.
Okay.
And the summer after I graduated high school, I was in the Pied Piper restaurant in Old Forge talking to some friends. Like, "So what are you doing?" I said, "I'm going to be a mechanical engineer or electrical." And I got thinking, I was like, I hate math. I hate being indoors. I don't want to be an engineer tied into an office.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a cop.
Yeah.
And I went to MVCC. I switched and went to MV, and I took 2 years of criminal justice. And I turned 21 in 1987 in April, and in June of '87 I started the sheriff's office.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. How did your parents feel about that?
My father was a town constable, which is, it's kind of hard to describe what they do, but he did like civil proceedings and stuff for the town of Forceport. He would pull cars over and things like that. In our pickup truck, we'd be coming home from the movies and somebody passed him in a double line. He'd throw his lights on and pull cars over and stuff. So I had some exposure to that. I had some friends that were police officers. So my parents were pretty happy, I think.
Supportive.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Did you have siblings?
I do. Back then I had an older brother and 2 older sisters.
Yep.
And now my mom passed away. My father's remarried. She had 2, so I have 2 step siblings, a brother and sister, and I have 2 half siblings, a half brother and sister.
Wow.
So there's a lot of us.
Yeah.
How long were you with the sheriff's department?
Almost 7 years.
No.
I started in the jail. I got hired provisionally in the jail. I worked there about 10 months. I realized I did not like it.
What? You don't like being in jail?
I did not like being in jail.
You're inside.
That's true. I wouldn't trade the experience I had for anything. It was a phenomenal learning experience.
Yeah.
I learned. I was from Old Forge. You had no exposure to crime,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
people who were convicted or accused of crimes or anything like that. So to go and work in a jail and you'd be locked in a block with 30 to 40 inmates.
Yeah.
And you were left to your own devices. And here I am right off the turnip wagon, no training, no anything. And I'm the guard here,
Yeah.
So you learn how to talk to people. And
Yeah.
I'm really, really glad that I have had that experience. I didn't like it at the time, but I certainly appreciate what it taught me. At my 10-month mark, I said, if I'm still here at my 1-year mark, I'm leaving, because it's the kind of job where next thing you know, you've been there 35 years and you're a chain smoking alcoholic and you just hate the world, and that wasn't for me. So, and it's not an indictment on anybody who does that job, because God bless you if you do that job.
Oh, yeah.
I figured that was my path. If I stayed there, I wasn't going to be happy or fulfilled. So I had a particularly bad day at work one day, and I left the jail, walked next door to the law enforcement building, and walked in, and the first door I came to was the patrol lieutenant, John Allen. And I said, I'm Dave Olney. I want a job. And they said 5 people just left and went to Utica that day. They needed people. And
The
a couple
timing.
weeks later, I was working there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I got hired provisionally there. I worked on the road 18 months before I went to the academy, because they didn't want to invest in somebody to go to the academy if you couldn't pass the test.
Makes
So
sense.
I had a very short, like a 2-week training, and then it was, you're off. Go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Now, when you went into the sheriff's department, did you have any intention going state police at any point, or did you kind of?
That was always my thought, was the troopers. I took the tests, I think, at least 3 times, maybe more. I'm a good test taker. Back then, you had to score extremely well to get in. So I think I would score like 96 or 97, and it wasn't anywhere near what I had to be to get in.
Wow.
And finally, I remember it was yesterday when I took the test for the troopers, and it took a few months for me to get the results back. And I looked at it, and I got 100, and I was just like, why couldn't I have done this 7 years ago?
Yeah.
Because the clock didn't start ticking for my state police time.
Yeah.
So, and I came to state police in '93.
Cool. Things weren't any different back then than they are now, were they, being a police officer?
Not at all.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's a
man.
different world.
Yeah.
It's a different world.
I wanted to tell you, my old chief of police here in Boonville, Jim Geller, I just remember him talking about it. He said it was just such an entirely different world, and he feels bad for a lot of law enforcement that are getting into it, and that was 2011 or so.
Yeah.
But I think things since then have changed dramatically.
Yeah.
Some things for the better, but a lot of things for the worse.
And I will bet you anything that when I got hired in 1987, the
Day I was born.
the old timers around me
Yeah.
were saying the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the world changes.
Right, it
And,
does.
and every generation it's something different. The
Yeah.
world changes, the laws change, the
Yeah.
cultural values change. So it's
Yes.
different. It's different for every generation. And then there's not a lot of people from my era left.
Yeah.
And if we don't change and adapt to the new stuff, then the world just marches on.
I honestly think there's a lot more support for law enforcement than the media really leads on to believe.
Yeah.
The vast majority of people that I talk to, and I talk to people from all different walks of life,
Yeah.
people support law enforcement for the most part. There are some odds and ends, but and of course the media for some reason pushes this narrative that just everybody hates cops, and it's actually the whole reason why you and I are in theory talking right now, because I was trying to find somebody to discuss and just promote law enforcement, was because of the Marcy incident, which I don't want to discuss the incident per se, but I was just so thrown off when I heard about it, because I got a lot of friends that are in corrections. My best friend's a corrections officer, not in Marcy, but I Googled that, And when I Google that, I see article upon article upon article, every single major news outlet. I mean, that was like the same day it happened. I'm like, why is that negativity so quick? To
Sells newspapers.
It's just so unfortunate.
And without getting into detail on that, what happened there is unconscionable. It really is.
Yeah.
That said, and I'm certainly not taking anything away from that because there's absolutely no excuse for that.
Yep.
That said, there are thousands of corrections officers that go to work every day that do a legit stand-up job under extremely poor conditions.
Yep.
I think it's always shown all the negative stuff, or the news makes, law enforcement just look bad because it only focuses on that crazy, horrible stuff. It's not normally, oh, look what they did for their community today. And so that like very rarely happens unless it's like a Christmas and they took kids shopping. It's, let's focus on the other
There's things you don't see every day. For an example, I last week I came to work. And I haven't told anybody this. Last week I came to work. I got here about 7 in the morning, and it was Monday. One of my patrols, I was just out on the outside of town coming in, and I heard him get called to a check the welfare of a 70-ish year old male who hadn't been heard from all weekend. That's never good, and it usually doesn't end well. So I'm like, I'll go over there. So I drive down there, and I pull up, and my patrolman is talking to the gentleman on his porch. And I was very relieved.
Yeah.
And the neighbor who had called it in was there, and she stuck her hand out, welcomed me to the village, and you must be the police chief, welcome, thank you for coming. Well, Dan, the patrolman, and I, Dan took the gentleman's car keys, went out and wiped a foot of snow off his car, cleaned his whole car off, started his car, let it warm up. I shoveled the guy's driveway out. You don't see that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I'm not telling you that for any other reason than the police here, everywhere, are doing things like that every single day.
Yeah.
We have body cameras now. We didn't have body cameras when I started.
Yeah.
I had one of the very first cameras in a troop car that was not on an interstate in the state of New York, and I would not be without it. I loved it because if you're doing your job the right way, no matter what's on that camera, you're going to be protected. If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Integrity.
Yeah.
Body cameras are huge. The one thing about body cameras is police work, as you know, is not a pretty business sometimes. And sometimes you have to do things that the public may not have a stomach for.
Yeah.
And now with body cameras, it is right there for people to see. It's always been there. It's always been the way we had to do our jobs. But now people see it. And it's like when correspondents from war started being able to film it and show pictures of soldiers in the field that are deceased. Well, the world never saw that before, and all of a sudden they're seeing that. And it's like, wow, it's not just something I'm reading in the paper. I'm seeing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the same way in law enforcement, where you're seeing the unpleasant side of the work we have to do.
Yeah.
If they don't see it, it's not really happening. They know you guys are out there trying to protect them, but if we don't see it, it's not really that bad.
Yeah. Yep. So you're right. It's a different world. You are absolutely right that I think that we have a huge amount of support from people, but they're not the ones we hear from. We hear from the people who it's the loud minority of people that make the most noise, that you hear from, that a lot of the politicians are quick to react to, when it's there's a lot of good people that support us.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I wanted to, I don't know if this could be let's make this down the road later in the conversation, because I want to talk about the challenges that law enforcement currently deal with, and like what needs to change in society to make things better for you to be able to facilitate your job as a police officer. And I do think that ties into a lot of things. I guess let's just jump into that now. I wanted to.
Might as well.
Then we can
Why not?
finish talking a little bit, or a lot of it rather, just about your career. I want to hear more, just stories and just things that you can remember that were, just moving parts of your life. But so what do you think needs to change right now? If you were to have the ability to make a couple changes to facilitate your job and be able to allow you to, I guess, I feel like your hands are so tied as a law enforcement officer right now, and just accountability is out the door with them closing prisons. And
I think accountability is huge, and I don't know if I have the answer to that question. I know that it doesn't start with us. It starts in the home. It starts with people being held to a standard at home, in school, at their workplace. If the very first time they're actually held to a standard is in front of a police officer, it's probably not going to go well. They're not going to like it.
Yeah.
If they've never been held to a standard, if they've never been held accountable before, it's our job to enforce the laws. It's our job to make sure people are doing what they're supposed to be doing in order for society to function properly. And if that's the first time they've ever been held to a standard is when they're in front of a police officer, it doesn't end well.
Yeah.
If we're in a situation and I tell you have to do something, and I'm within the law to do that, and you tell me no, I have two choices. I can say, you're right, you don't have to do that, I was just kidding, or you are going to do that,
Yeah.
and I'm going to show you how you're going to do that.
Yeah.
And sometimes that isn't pleasant. So I think people need to be held accountable throughout life.
Yeah.
It's very disheartening as a police officer when you go to a house and you're asked to be the disciplinarian at the house to a child.
Yeah.
That's not the time to do it. Or at 17 years old when a parent comes in and says, my child won't do this and won't do that. And it's like, what have you taught them over the years? Sometimes, they've tried their best at their wits' end, but you see, in general, as society, it just doesn't want to be held to a standard.
Yeah.
So
it kind of stems, like you said, from childhood. Working at an elementary school, I see all the time when kids act a certain way, there's really no repercussions. There's more of a, here's a gift, go back to class. It's okay that you acted like that. And I know we have to be careful with the kids. They're not our children, but the school's not the only place where kids need to be taught right from wrong, or integrity, or morals, or how, let's be kind. Right. There's such a lack of that. So it's like we need to help the parents teach their kids, but how do we do that?
yeah,
It has to start when you're young, or else, like you said, when they get in trouble and they are with an officer, and the officer's like, hey, you have choice A and B, I'm going to either make you do this, or, it's going to be the hard way or the easy way.
yeah.
And it is hard.
And it does take a village.
It does.
It really does. I'm a big believer in community and community things, and we need to take care of each other and help each other.
Yeah. One of the biggest things that just irks me is I read all these crazy charges that crimes people are committing, and then they're getting, here's an appearance ticket, and people not going to prison or not being charged, or it's almost like there's it's working exactly as intended. I mean, if you take accountability away and then you expect people to act better when there's no repercussions for your negative actions to begin with, how do you expect things to get better?
Right.
How does anybody expect things to get better?
Yeah, I think the thought behind bail reform was well intended. I think that there was some discrepancy. I think there were some issues with incarceration, things like that.
Yeah.
I think that it needs to be revisited, and I think they are in the process of trying to revisit some things. Politically, I don't think it was popular.
Yeah.
Certainly, socially, it's not popular with law-abiding people that, I don't know. I think, there's that pendulum, and like we said about law enforcement and support for law enforcement, the pendulum, it never stops in one direction. It always swings back. And I think with bail reform, it went really far in one direction, and now it's got to work its way back. It is very disheartening if you, as a police officer, if you have to physically fight with somebody and you're injured in the process, and then at the end of the day, you have to go to the hospital, get checked out, and that person, instead of being incarcerated, because they are clearly a danger to society, they walk out of the building with an appearance ticket. And I think that sends a message that it's partially okay, or it's not going to be as much of a deterrent for people. And we have seen injuries to people go up. We've seen injuries to police officers go up, I think, as a result of it. But
It's like a slap on the hand. Don't do it again. Okay.
What do you think needs specifically for like opioids, narcotics as a whole right now? Obviously, that's a situation that hits me at home quite. For my viewers that haven't seen any of our stuff, I lost my sister in 2020 to a very long, bad battle with opioids and methamphetamine for years. And I like to say, though, I believe my sister ultimately saved me. She's 6 years older than I was, and I remember being 14, and that was when she went to college. I remember my parents bringing me to go pick her up from college, and just everything she had was sold. And I saw how my sister looked at that point in my life.
Scared you.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and
She probably was a shell of who you knew.
Oh yeah, yeah. But I did get the fortunate. I was very fortunate to be able to get to be friends with her when I worked at the casino. Actually, went on break with her and stuff. But what do you think really? What could be done to make the situation better for law enforcement to be able to actually do something about the narcotics situation? And
I think resources are a big deal.
Yes.
Being able to allocate resources to investigate distribution, sales, things like that. That's one facet.
Yeah.
And it's been proven that that's not the only way to get rid of the problem. 6 inches from your left arm is a thing of Narcan that I was instrumental with the state police in the Narcan program when I worked at our planning and research office in Albany. That was one of the projects that I was very, very proud to be part of. And I was the one that pitched it to our executive staff, the superintendent, deputy superintendents, all the colonels. And I pitched it to the executive staff, the importance of it. And one of the things I said about Narcan is it could be you or me, it could be your family member. I'm not going to use it intentionally.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to use it intentionally. But when we pick up a baggie or somebody's backpack and it's got fentanyl on it or whatever, we may have to use it. I do know police officers have had it use Narcan. So, and that said, what does your stereotypical heroin or narcotic analgesic user look like?
Yep.
There isn't one.
Yep.
And we're obligated in this line of work to help people.
Yes.
And the analogy I use was you get sent to a car crash in an intersection. You don't get to pick and choose who you're going to help in that car crash. You pull up and you help everyone.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with drug addiction. We don't get to pick and choose who we're going to help.
Yeah.
And society might look at that person like they have little or no value.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not my place. It is not my place to determine what or whether somebody contributes to society.
Yeah.
It's my place to try to help.
Yeah. It is easy to judge on the outside looking in. I've been judgmental on and off throughout my life, and not so much anymore. I feel like I've gotten better about it.
Well, it is easy to judge someone that might look like they're rough around the edges or making all these bad choices and stuff. It's just different bad choices maybe that you made when you were younger or at the your adult life or whatever. That's someone's mother or father or sister, brother or child, you know, and it does break my heart how they need help. And they're not all these horrible, horrible people. They're making horrible decisions, but they're not bad people.
They may just need hope.
And there's millions of mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers that aren't here anymore, because of choices. But let me pose this to you. So I'm a drug recognition expert. I don't know if you know what that is.
Nope, I haven't heard of that. I don't think ever.
It's a police officer that can do about 45-minute to an hour long evaluation on somebody who's been driving impaired. So patrolman stops a vehicle, feels they're impaired, brings it back, gives them a breath test. Their level of impairment is not consistent with their blood alcohol concentration. So they look like they're 2.5 BAC falling down drunk, and they blow a .00 or 0.2 or 0.05.
Okay.
And it's not consistent, so maybe you're going to suspect drugs. So they call a DRE. A DRE comes in, does a 45-minute-ish evaluation on that person. At the end of the evaluation, we say whether they were impaired and whether we believe the impairment was by drugs, alcohol, medical, or not impaired.
Yeah.
It's very, very intense training. It's, in fact, there's a group going to Philadelphia right now to Kensington Street, which is, do you know what Kensington?
No.
It is open narcotic drug use open in the public. People, right now, if I pull up the live cam, you wouldn't believe Kensington Street. But we have a class going there starting today to do their field certification. So it's 2 weeks of some of the hardest classroom material you'll ever take as a police officer, and then it's a week in the field doing hands-on evaluations. I'm the senior DRE in the state of New York.
Awesome.
I've been doing it since 1997. I was very committed to, and I'll get back around to how this relates to narcotic use. I've been very, very committed in my career to driving while intoxicated enforcement. I feel DWI is a conscious choice people make.
Yep.
There's so many better options and options available to people who don't have to drink and drive. And I was telling you, I was on the road for 18 months before I went to the academy. On my third week as a deputy, at 4:30 in the afternoon, I got called to a triple fatal. It was in March. Triple fatal caused by a drunk driver going 100 and some miles an hour, coming around a corner, hitting a pickup truck head on. That pickup truck went from 55 forward to 40 backwards. After they did the reconstruction, they determined it, and those 3 people were killed instantly. They were minding their own business, productive people going home from work. I can tell you where they worked. I can tell you the driver of the car's name. I can tell you a lot of things like that. I can also tell you how in shock I was, having never seen anything like that. And to see that destruction up close and to be standing in it left a mark on me that I carry to this day.
See, speaking very specifically of that, man, I think law enforcement as a whole, you know, people talk about mental health and PTSD and stuff, and generally most people, including myself, have always thought military, but the vast majority of law enforcement, especially if they've done it for a couple of years, are going to see way more than the average soldier. Not comparing, not that you can compare, but it's... I don't know how there hasn't been more of a focus on that for law enforcement and firefighters and, you know, first responders as a whole. Which
I feel like it's starting to pick up.
yes,
You know.
I agree.
Having just left the troopers, we have a phenomenal unit there, and they go around. The gentleman that emceed my party, that he's part of that unit, and they really do wonders for the mental and physical health of police officers. And they'll work for any agency. So if I were to call them and say, hey, I need EAP up here, I have an officer that's maybe showing me some signs, and they will confidentially talk to them. So getting back to that, and I can point to probably a half dozen things that I still carry with me, that a half dozen, and I have a bad memory, a half dozen things that are prominent with me from the last 40 years. But so that's one of them. And when I was a trooper, Oneida County gives out an award for driving while intoxicated. I never arrested a single person for an award or for fine or anything else. I arrested them because of those 3 dead people.
Yes.
And I was trying to prevent those people, okay? I got, in Oneida County, I won that award 7 years in a row. I won it for the state of New York 2 years in a row.
Yep.
The superintendent of state police gave me an award 1 year for my DWI enforcement, something I take very, very, very seriously. Having gotten into the drug recognition expert end of it, the more I got into the DRE program, I became an instructor. Well, that's a pretty heavy lift administratively, and I was off the road a lot because I'm teaching. And it bothered me that now I'm not working Friday night and Saturday night. I'm not able to go out and arrest somebody for driving while intoxicated. And I felt like if I went through a weekend and didn't arrest somebody for DWI, I wasn't doing my job.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to realize that if I can train 50 people a year and they each arrest 5 people, that's way more than I can do myself.
Yeah, I like
And it
that.
took me a long time to figure that out. Looking at the drug recognition expert program, and we've had doctors and psychologists and all kinds of people come in. And one of the things that I took away from that program is most people that we arrest for driving while intoxicated or driving while impaired by drugs, in my experience and all the evaluations I've done, probably 2/3 of them are people that were just messed up on and by their prescription medication. It wasn't intentional.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
It's not intentional, it's accidental. You think of a heroin user is somebody living in an abandoned building in squalor, and there's people that you talk to every day. There's people that you would probably work with that are narcotic analgesic users, oxy, you name it. All the different types of things they're using, and a lot of them are driving under the influence. So it is that that Narcan isn't just for that person living in squalor who's purposely putting a needle in their arm. Now, some of those people may very well have gotten into a car crash or occupational injury while at work and fell and broke a limb or whatever, and then because of bad insurance or no insurance, they go to the hospital, and in that month they were in the hospital, they leave and they're now addicted to narcotic analgesics.
Yes, I know a lot of people like that.
Yeah, and now they leave, they can't get them legally, and they have to have them because it is such a physically addictive drug that they have to have it. So what are you going to do?
We're just fortunate we can't rationalize that, that feeling, that addiction. 'Cause
Yeah.
Thank God, man.
So they are going to find it where they can. They are going to get that. That is so overwhelmingly powerful to that person that they're going to do what they have to do, and they will sell out their family and their friends and everything else to do it. And they didn't start out as a bad person. It doesn't make them a bad person now, but somehow they got on that path. So Narcan and the things that we do to help try to prevent that are huge. Last week I called the health department and had them, they're sending me a whole case on Narcan up here, so we have stuff available for everyone.
Cool.
It's kind of interesting to me how it's that sort of thing, like people going to the hospital for whatever reason, they are on pain meds and they get addicted to them, they're sent home. I wonder just why they're, and I know people are probably trying to work on how do we transition them, but I feel like there's not, I know there's not just one answer, but how can it be going on for such a long period of time and there's nothing really there to help them transition from being on the pain meds to just going home, cold turkey, no more. They don't know what to do, and there's nothing really to help them in the meantime.
So I think up until recently, the answer to that was money. Not money to take to get people off it, but it was money being made getting people on it.
Yeah.
And they're coming up with some good alternatives now. One thing that a doctor, and one of the things that I never ever forgot, and have you ever had to take a narcotic analgesic for an injury or surgery, anything like that?
I had sinus surgery, and I think for like 3 or 4 days, but I still had some at my house after that, and I didn't need it, so I didn't. I didn't get addicted to it. I don't think it was a long enough time.
One time ever, and it was not until my ex-girlfriend, I was home from holiday block leave, and she had hydrocodone. I didn't know, I was really sick, and she said, I got you cough syrup. And I'm like, wait, what is that? And I already swallowed it, and I was freaking out, because I'm like, that's a controlled substance. Yeah. I got to go back to basic training. I was 3/4 of the way through. I was terrified, but I was clearly good. Yeah. So
I hurt my back doing CPR on a guy in Whitesboro a few years ago. I was working, and I stood up, and it felt like I got shot in the back.
Oh my gosh!
It was horrible. In fact, this morning it was acting up. I was given hydrocodone. I got home, I got in bed, and I told Dana, "Don't give that to me. Put it away." She locked it in her safe. About 3 hours later, I was like, "Give that to me."
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I know probably every DRE in the state of New York. I think if you ask any one of them if they'd ever take it, and they'll tell you no until they have to.
Yeah, right.
So one thing I learned from a doctor, and I've told friends, I had a dear friend of mine lost his leg in a motorcycle accident a couple years ago, and he was afraid of taking the stuff. They said, dude, you lost your leg. Take the stuff. I go, here's what you do, though. And this is what the doctor told me, and I believe it. He said, every 3 days, stop taking it.
Yeah.
And let it wear off. Is that pain tolerable? If the pain is tolerable and you can deal with it, stop taking it. You will never get addicted. If that pain is tolerable and you keep taking it, that is when you're going to get addicted, physically and mentally addicted to it.
Interesting.
So, like I said, when I hurt my back, I took it, and it gave me almost immediate relief. It was almost unbearable, the pain I was in. I took it for 2 days and got rid of the rest.
Yeah.
Cool.
So there's nothing wrong with it, and it's, if you need it, you need it, and
Right.
you're foolish not to use it. That said, the industry, the medical industry, the pharmaceutical industry, they need to be much better at educating people. They need to be much better in making sure we don't create addicted people.
Yeah.
Right, and I think it's so easy for people to go to their doctor and be like, I need more. And they're like, okay, here you go. That has to be changed.
Yeah.
The person
Yeah.
we were speaking of much earlier that I was very close to was addicted to hydrocodone. And I watched that over a 10-year period.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and it's, Monica's, she gives me a lot of hope because, she came from a very difficult background with, escaping an abusive relationship and, drugs involved, and she's been clean for 15 years. So, and I try to tell people, I think the biggest thing that people are lacking nowadays out there when it comes to, I don't care what your drug of choice is or your addiction of choice, whether it's alcohol, I think anybody can get out, and I don't care how addicted you are to heroin even, I think anybody can get out of it. It's a matter of whether or not you have hope.
And
That's huge.
self-love and self-worth, because a lot of times when you're down like that, why am I the one to get out of this? Not worth it. Like, I'm not good enough to
you have
have a
to
better
be
life.
in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And just like I was telling you about, on the 16th marks two years of me changing my dietary habits. And people ask me, what did you do? And I said, well, the first thing was your head has to be in the game.
Yeah.
If it is not, it's not going to work, because I started that at 57 years old, almost 56 years old. How many times since I got out of high school did I embark on that journey and it never went anywhere, or it went somewhere and then it got worse.
Yeah.
So one of the things is, if you're, and I don't know how to tell you to get your head in the game, if your head's not there, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Nobody can make you do it. You can't make yourself do it unless you commit to it.
Exactly. You can't help someone if they don't want to help themselves. There's
Yep.
hopefully someday there'll be a time where they
And
want
believe
to.
me, I wanted to help myself for my entire adult life.
Yeah.
I was always, heavier than I thought I should have been. And finally, it took that one thing from my doctor, and it was like, geez, I just had a grandchild born. I had 2 before that. It's like, I want to be here.
Yeah.
And my doctor said, you're going to die of a heart attack.
Yeah.
I
But
was
it's so crazy, because people that are doing heroin or whatever, they have children a lot of the time. So are your kids worth your sobriety? It's like,
I guess if you think about the physiology of how a drug or alcohol gets a grip on a person, I don't think they're able to even draw that inference or draw that conclusion.
Right.
I think it's 2 complete separate different worlds. And again, unless you come to the point, and everybody has to reach rock bottom, unless you get to that point where you've decided to make a commitment. I have some friends that there's a gentleman in my life that I'm not extremely close to him, but I used to, when I was in the jail in 1987, I was the guard, he was the inmate. And I've seen him throughout his years really go off the deep end, and he's been incarcerated a bunch of times, and he's now clean. He's been clean for a while.
Wow.
And I bounce across him, and we talk on Facebook and stuff, and I have nothing but respect for this guy.
Awesome.
And he's changed his life. It took him almost his entire life to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I see him now, and I see him posting how he's lost this friend and that friend and that friend to drugs and to this and to that, and he's staying with it. And it's like, it took you that long, but you finally did it.
Exactly.
And everybody's paragraph is different. It could be 3 sentences, it could be 3 pages.
Exactly.
It takes that switch for you to flip.
We had somebody on our podcast. Her name is Betsy, and she is something I respected so much about this person is she admitted her flaws. She was heavy into meth. She talked about it. She was on parole. She did time in prison. But she talked about, she owned up all of her mistakes that she has made throughout her life, and she's taken accountability, and she lost her daughter, and she straight up said, she's like, I am the reason I lost my daughter based off of my poor choices in life. And she has since decided to, regardless of all the negativity she's put out there for 20, 30, 40 years, she's now dedicating her life to just wanting to put good out there, and whether, it's mainly faith-based for her. And I think people get so bitter about life, and they play that victim game, and it's easy. Like, if people knew my story, hypothetically, if I were to play the victim game now, I think there's a lot of people who be like, I don't really blame him, but it doesn't do any good. You don't get anything out of that. And
but is it, no matter what you did in your past, right now is right now. It's the present. You can't go back. Try to do
Do
better.
you know any drug counselors?
The one we had on our podcast last night, technically.
Actually, yeah.
I would say an overwhelming majority of the drug counselors I have come across were drug addicts.
We were just talking about that on the way here.
On the way here.
I told them, I was like, I wouldn't want to, being in a situation, if I was addicted to something right now, I would want to talk to someone like that. They get it.
They understand the perspective, and they're able to maybe, they're able to relate to where you are right now if they're trying to help you. What better person to do it? You know, and they're taking something they did that was either a poor choice or a poor circumstance, and they're making something positive, regardless of what happened from their back. They're turning into something positive and trying to help somebody else. So, it took a while for me to realize it. It's just, all these counselors are former drug addicts. And like, wait a minute, what better person to do this? They have
Honestly,
that perspective.
it probably very similar to us doing this crazy podcast. It's like having purpose and helping other people. And just as far as, you know, a lot of, like the other night we recorded with a guy and just listening to him tell his story. You know, he lost his wife very recently, and he messaged me the next day how, you know, just thank you, it's so therapeutic. And like, I get so much personal gain out of that for selfish reasons too. Like I like the way it makes me feel doing good things for other people and like helping other people. And if you do have the ability to help other people get out of a bad situation, there's just about nothing more valuable than that. Sometimes it's just listening.
And you know what? I don't care if you're doing it for selfish reason because you're looking for attention, or which I don't believe you are. But if you're looking for attention, or you're looking for self gratification, or whatever, you're helping other people. So, regardless of why you're doing it, it's having a positive impact. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier about society, is how we have to help each other out. You know, and whether it's something little or something big, you do what you can. You know?
Exactly.
Unless I really wanted to steer him back onto the other points of his career that he hinted at, memories. But if you have anything you wanted to ask him first, I just didn't want to interrupt you.
I like asking people if there was anything in your whole career that influenced you in any way, where there was any point of time where you were like, I don't know if I can do this, and clearly you kept going. And how did you keep going? Like, how did your mental state stay so strong to be like, no, I can do this?
While going through life, because people may not know this, but cops have lives outside of their job as well.
It could be personally, or, you know, in your law enforcement career. Is there anything that you were just like, I don't know if I can do this right now?
That's a great question. You're going to make me think. That's a really good question. There's been so many things that were firsts on this job. And like I told you, I worked for 18 months, only had a little bit of training, and then I got thrown out in the wild. And there were things that, where that radio crackled and you got sent to, and you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know how I'm going to handle this. I hope to God somebody else shows up to help me. And there were a lot of times you're like, you know, am I the right person to be doing this? Well, walking in the door here, you know. I've ran some state police barracks, but there was always something over the top of me. There was always a structure, and here I'm going to work hard to build this place from the ground up, and to create a really good, positive place. So, I mean, right up until this week, I guess I could ask that question. So, I don't think in my career I ever said I shouldn't be here. I don't think I ever felt that way. I have been certainly unsure about what I was doing and why I was doing it. But I don't think I ever looked and said, maybe I'm going to go down a different path. I do know quite a few police officers that did it for 5, 6, 7, 10 years and went and did something else, and I'd never understood that, but I certainly appreciate it now. Everybody's goal is to get to retirement. You know, you're 20 years, and I almost doubled that so far, and I probably will double that. I guess I'm in a position where I don't really know anything different. I do have, like you said, police officers have outside lives. something that I was taught way back in the beginning was make sure you have something outside of this job. And I used to joke around, like when I was running Marcy, the barracks, I'm like, I have to go to work to get some rest. Because my life outside of work is chaotic.
Why don't you tell just some of the things you're involved in? You're involved in a lot.
Yeah.
Or what you have been involved in, rather, as well.
I don't even know where to start. Well, I have a lot of activities that I enjoy doing. I'm in a band. I've been in a band for 20 some years. I'm the lead singer and I play guitar in a rock band. We're very active and we play probably 30 times a year. So that takes up a lot of time. That's my therapy. I love working around my house. I have a beautiful big house and I actually mow 3 of my neighbors' lawns. And I told them they're going to need a restraining order to keep me off their lawns. So don't buy a lawnmower. So none of them even own a lawnmower. So just that kind of stuff. I love woodworking. I love building things. I love building things in my own house. I build my own furniture. I build my own cabinets and countertops and islands. Do all that stuff. So I love that stuff. Outside of that, one of the things Dana really got me into was doing community involvement outside of the job. So when I'm not working, and you can't help it because I've been around so long and I know so many people and people want to introduce you as trooper this or sergeant this or chief this and I'm not that person when I'm not working.
Yeah.
And I love being involved with things around the community. So one of the first things Dana got me involved in was originally called Montgomery Experience, and it changed to Joseph Experience. And it was an organization that actually just dissolved last year. And our whole function was to serve families who had children that were afflicted with cancer.
Okay.
And we raised money, and we did things for the families, brought them food, got them to the hospitals, got them transportation, paid for their gas, paid for their tolls, held Christmas parties, did gifts for the kids for different things. So we had a camp in Bridgewater that we'd bring the kids to, and we'd have events and fishing tournaments and all kinds of things there. So that really opened my eyes to what's out there. I was the president, one of the founders of an organization that was called the Mohawk Valley Lunch Club. And I'm a car guy. I have a couple of cars. And there were a bunch of friends of mine that we were bummed out in the wintertime because we couldn't play with our toys. So we'd get together and have lunch at a restaurant once a month. And the restaurants around the Mohawk Valley would kind of compete to have us come in. And we'd have maybe 15 of us, and they'd put us in a back room and put on a nice buffet spread for us.
Nice.
And then we'd be like, all right, it's $20 for the lunch, and we're going to throw $5 in a hat. And then every spring, we would throw the name of a couple local charities in a hat and pick one out and give them the money. And we'd give them $500.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, the last year that I was involved and I was the president, we donated, I think, over $50,000. Just that one year.
Oh my gosh.
To local not-for-profits. Insight House, Feed Our Vets, Joseph's, the Kurt Wyman Park, you name it.
Yeah.
We were donating checks for $10,000 a piece for the events that we held throughout the year to raise money for local. So we were a not-for-profit that raised money for not-for-profits.
Yeah.
And that was one. The Deputy Kurt Wyman Foundation. Kurt was shot and killed June 7th, 2011. He was an Oneida County Deputy Sheriff. He was shot and killed at a domestic dispute. That morning when his wife heard the news, she went into labor, gave birth to their child. Wonderful, wonderful human being. I'm now president of the Wyman Foundation, and we built the park on Judd Road in Whitestown in Kurt's name. That park, his name will live forever in that park. What else? I was involved in the Ride for Missing Children for over 20 years. Involved for the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation Ride for Kids for over 20 years.
We just watched something, speaking of missing children, on who was the girl that was Amanda?
Sarah Wood.
Sarah Ann Wood, yeah.
Sarah Ann Wood was abducted August 18th, 1993. I was there for the...
My buddy did a missing person documentary on it. It was really good.
Yeah,
Dan
it was
Sanborn,
really good.
is, and we actually just recently watched it. But yeah,
and that the crew from the Ride for Missing Children is just remarkable what they've done over the years. It's no coincidence that my Dana and our wedding anniversary is August 18th,
Oh, wow.
and just reflects a little bit of that.
Yeah.
So that's just some of the things we're involved in.
A little bit of drone photography and stuff.
So yeah, when I was for 4 years I was a sergeant at our planning and research office in the state police in Albany at division headquarters, and I had the best job ever. I was like Q from 007. I got to play with all the toys, and I got to come up to work on all these projects. And one of the things, I came to work one day and there was a note on my desk, Dave, look into drones, and then the colonel's name. I'm like, drones? And I'm thinking Predators and Reapers. I'm like, what are we going to do with those? Well, it took us almost 4 years to build one of the biggest law enforcement drone programs in the country. And in doing that, we literally have saved a countless number of lives and made police officers and civilians' lives much more safer.
Yeah.
And I could sit here and talk to you for hours and hours and hours, show you pictures of different missions and things we've done that we've saved people. In doing that, I got my license, and as a youth, I enjoyed messing around with model airplanes and things like that, rockets and everything. So this was like, they're paying me to do this stuff.
Yeah.
So I went and got my drone license and opened a business, registered a business with the county. Didn't really do much with it. And then in 2020, in COVID, now my wife Dana is a professional photographer. That's her full time.
Okay.
Yep. So in 2020 during COVID, we were contacted by a friend of ours, Bill Keeler from WIBX, very good friend of ours, and one of his main sponsors was River Hills Properties. They're a very big real estate company in the area. And their existing photographers didn't want to leave their house because they were afraid of COVID. So they asked Bill if he knew anybody that did photography like that, and he recommended us. So we immediately developed a great relationship with Bill and Robin at River Hills, and we've been working for them since. Cool. So we do now a lot of real estate photography. We did one yesterday. Dana does the interior and exterior stills, and she does 3D modeling inside and all that stuff. Sweet. And I do the outside drone stuff. And then we put together a narrated caption package for their company.
You do there's indoor drone I've seen for real estate with those little drones, and actually they're $200. They're dirt
like
cheap.
a virtual tour type of thing.
So I'm going next level, because just before I retired from the state police, Oneida County District Attorney's Office donated a DJI Avata 2 to us, which is where you order the goggles. And I'd just been developing our tactics and skills for that drone, and fell deeply in love with it. And
is it that cool?
It is next level. I have all this time flying drones, and you've flown them. And if I want to fly, I've actually flown in houses with suicides, with gunmen, with. We had a homicide that they thought the suspect was still in, and we flew in the house. I've flown in the houses where we've had to shoot the windows out with beanbags and fly into the house to find people. You've flown yours, and you know that there's a separation if you're looking at that screen and you're trying to get your spatial relations and go.
Yeah.
There's a separation there.
Yep.
FPV with the goggles is next level. You are you are in that drone. And it is part of you, and it's not a controller like you.
It's like a thumb.
It's a motion controller, and you hold
it.
You hold it like you're flying a jet fighter. And if you want to go forward, you go forward. You go backward. You go left. You go right. You go up. You go down, and it's incredible. It's incredible. So, my next purchase is going to be an Avata 2 for doing interior. That's amazing. I borrowed a buddy's, and we did the interior of a house. The only thing I don't like about it is the gimbal doesn't tilt. The drone, it's fixed. So if you're flying it and you go into a house and turn, so your image turns.
Wait another year or two. I'm sure they'll make it.
Yeah.
You know?
So I don't like that for real estate photography. But you want to talk about? I've trained hundreds of hours doing interior searches, and it's a methodical process. And I could search this building in probably 15 minutes, and I could conclusively say there's no one in anywhere I could get to. With that Avata 2, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a game changer. It's amazing. So that's going to be my next purchase. So
that's so cool.
So the drone thing, and I really enjoy what we do with that. I'll show you pictures on my phone in a few minutes. One story with the troopers. I was the coordinator for Troop D, which is a huge part of Central New York, and I'd coordinate all the pilots, and you'd get called out for searches and things. I remember one morning, it was 1:24 a.m., and I was in that deep sleep, and my phone rang, and I answered it, and it was somebody from Ilion saying that they had a suicidal person that took medicine, took pills, and told their significant other that you can't save me this time, and I'm, goodbye. So they located the vehicle using the app. So it was a Volkswagen, and the boyfriend found the location of the vehicle on the app and got us close to the vehicle. So it was 1:24. I woke up, threw my clothes on, ran out, popped a Monster Energy because I wanted to be alert. 24 minutes after taking off, I found the woman.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm 1,000% certain that she would not have survived between the overdose and exposure, because I think it was either March or early April. She was wearing T-shirts and shorts, and it was raining out.
Oh, yeah.
And and it was just incredible. And I joke, I try to keep a sense of humor. I landed the drone and I went, I totally screwed that up. And they were like, what happened? I'm like, I found her way too quick. I drank that Monster, and now I'm not going to be able to go back to bed.
Yeah.
But what a feeling knowing that whatever was going through that person, they get to at least get another shot at it.
Yeah.
So, and that, honestly, without that drone, I don't think we would have found her.
Yeah.
Or we wouldn't have found her until
Not that
it was
quick.
too late.
Yep.
Right.
And that's one of 1,000 things that I can tell you across the state that program. So I'm very, very proud of the work that we did to pioneer that.
I never would have thought the internal aspect of it. I was thinking of like search and rescue type situations, but wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah. So I've said any good drone program really has 3 legs to it. The third one is not unattainable, but it's like one of those things that most agencies are never going to get. So the first leg is a good exterior program, and that's thermal, and it's thermal in the ability to stay in the air a long time. So that is multiple batteries, portable charging units, all that stuff. Then you have internal, which is a huge officer safety thing where you can send a drone in where you can't send a person in and do things. And then the third is a fixed wing program, because that gives you hours of loitering in the air, because it takes much, much less energy to fly a fixed wing drone than it does a quadcopter.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the three-legged stool for any good drone program, and it's really rare to find anyone with a fixed wing, because it's like you really like to have it, but they're very expensive and bulky, and so. But yeah, that's between my drug recognition expert time and the things that I know that we've saved lives.
Yeah.
And the drone program are 2 of my proudest accomplishments within the state police, and I brought it here hopefully, and I've talked to the village about getting a drone program going here and cross training with the fire department, so we have multiple people
Good
up here.
idea.
Did you know Joe Matthews at all, by any chance? He's the chief of the North Bay Fire Department. He's also the head of a band as well.
Oh yeah,
He is, isn't he?
We recorded in the fire department.
Yep.
I think September or so, give or take.
Oh,
So,
nice.
A little while ago.
just like this, I learned a lot about drones and whatnot, and there's so much stuff people don't think about in the fest.
It's not just having fun flying around and taking pictures
Yeah.
of whatever.
And it's funny, since I started using my drone for my business at home, I don't fly for pleasure anymore, and I love flying for pleasure. But if I do something with my drone, I'm out of business.
Yeah.
So I just told Dana yesterday, that one incident I was telling you about where my drone battery malfunctioned, I damaged my gimbal, so I'm going to buy a new drone, and that's going to be my backup, and that'll be my toy that I can use.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good idea.
Yep.
That's so funny.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not good at it. I don't ever fly them. Ever. He always does.
They're cool.
Yeah.
One of the troopers that was one of my pilots, great guy, he has a M30T Matrice DJI that he has CNY pet recovery, and he's gone out and found so many dogs
Oh my
that
gosh.
people are
Does it
missing.
have thermal?
Thermal.
I never even
okay.
thought of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
You wouldn't believe. Again, I'll show you pictures on my phone
Yeah.
of we train up at Homeland Security in Oriskany.
Yeah.
And one of the things we do on night training is I'll be like, go find me a coyote. And within 5 minutes, we're 40 feet
my
over the top
gosh.
of a coyote.
That's so
Or
cool.
find me a deer, but make it a buck. Or, make it a doe and find a fawn close by. And we'll go, and 10 minutes later, we got
That's cool.
Yeah, we can find squirrels, rabbits, from 300 feet in the air.
I just need to get a thermal drone. That's it.
Yep.
Such a good idea. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
We
The
wanted to-
times we live in.
Yeah.
Well, we've done it a couple of times. We actually recorded hiking and stuff, and I'll take my drone, just have a circle and record us. So just give the extra panning.
Oh, it's so cool.
It's
Yeah.
really neat.
So fun.
Just what it opens up for photography is just incredible. And
Yeah.
just your perspective on the world. You realize how small you are. You think you got a good vision of what's around you, and you put your drone up. You're like, I had no idea.
You're this
spatially,
big.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what's around here. So
I did Mount Marcy with my son back in June, and not that you're allowed to fly drones up there. I would never do that.
may
But
or may
hypothetically, I had a couple 1,000-foot selfie stick rather. But man, the footage like that perspective, especially at the top of the mountain, is so beautiful.
it's incredible. On the other side of the coin, you made me think of that. There is a danger in having them too. You look at the wildfires in Los Angeles, and the gentleman that was flying, and he was flying beyond visual line of sight, and he lost sight of the drone, and it crashed into one of the 2 tanker planes that were there to put the fires out, and it grounded the plane. I didn't know. So now they're down
Oh
a
my
plane.
gosh.
Who knows how many
Oh my God.
houses could have been saved?
Oh my gosh. Oh,
I
that's so
didn't hear
sad.
that.
He's in jail, and they're talking $25,000 fine and time in jail for that.
Wow.
You have any thoughts on the drone sightings?
I do.
I haven't really. I don't follow a lot of news and media and
No.
stuff, but
Yeah.
I do. I can't wait to find out what they really, really are. But
Yeah.
I have a couple inclinations on that. One is, if it were the Iranians or if it were spies, by meaning the country, wouldn't be as passive as we have been.
exactly.
That's one
Yeah.
thing. If it were a bad actor, they're not going to be following what appeared to be, they were following FAA regulations. So they're not going to have navigation lights on. They're not going to have anti-collision lights on, right? So that's another thing. And the third thing is, a lot of people that saw the drones have never looked up in the sky before. But now, all of a sudden,
Yeah.
all you hear in the news for 2 weeks is drones. Now everybody goes outside and looks up in the sky, and everything you see moving is a drone. To you.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a satellite? Out
Yes.
in North Bay, you have to see them
yeah.
all the time.
All
Oh,
the
yeah.
we always are
So-
looking at the stars and everything that's out
I
there.
love going and looking at satellites. And
Yep.
I have an app on my phone to tell you, it's an abandoned rocket body. It's
Yeah.
I've seen the space station 100 times. But there's all those things in the sky that people have no idea that it's something that's
Right.
outside of the stratosphere.
Yeah.
We do a thing when
Yeah.
we train in night training with the drones, and we'll fly the drone out 2,500 feet, half a mile. I'll take the controller away from the pilot, tell him to turn around, face the other way, and then I'll turn it. I'll just turn it, and I'll tell him, fly it straight back to me. And it's extremely hard to tell at night whether that drone is going up, down, coming toward you, or going away from you, because it gets lost. Not lost, but you have no perspective in the night
Right.
sky, and you have no real horizon, and it's really disorienting to be able to know whether it's going up or down or forward or backward or anything. So
Yeah.
a lot of what people saw in the sky were, I believe, manned aircraft. There may have been some drones, there may have been some hobbyists. I don't think it was anything nefarious.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily think nefarious. I've thought from the beginning when I first heard about it, like, I don't know how big you are with AI. Me working in cybersecurity, I work with AI a lot. I use large language modules quite a bit. And if I have access to this incredible technology, it's like, what has the government had access to for the past 10
Yeah.
years that I have no idea exists? So it's we're not meant to always know.
Yeah. Again, I'll show you another video on my camera.
Okay.
When I was up at Lake Placid, I took that picture, no drones allowed, with my drone sitting there and everything.
I love it.
I'm a rule follower.
That's awesome.
But I worked the university games at Lake Placid in the winter of 2023. And I was concerned because my post was Whiteface Mountain. And we needed to cover a bunch of different areas. So one of the first things I did was go to Whiteface Mountain, find a place to fly from.
Cool.
And find multiple places to fly from, so you could cover all these different objectives. So we went to couple different places, and nothing was really great. And then we went to the chalet, the top cloud spin. It's like a tavern bar chalet.
Okay.
And right outside are picnic tables and everything else. And I put the drone up 300 feet, and I could see everything I needed to see without ever going a foot in any direction. I could literally
my
fly
gosh,
straight
yeah.
up in the air, see everything I needed to see, land back down. I took a video of, the top of Whiteface Mountain is the tower up there.
Yeah.
And I took a video, zoomed in on it, and zoomed all the way in on it. And when I pulled back, and you see how far away I was, it's a 9-second video. I'll play it for you if you want.
Yeah.
It's a 9-second video, and everyone has the same reaction. They're watching, and then they go. It's
That much zoom on there. What is it, like 20x
crazy.
zoom on those?
60.
60.
20? No,
Wait.
60.
No. 60, 60 and 60. So it was 120.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
This will absolutely blow your mind. You gotta watch the whole 9 seconds.
Holy crap, man.
Wow.
Holy.
And I
That's
could
crazy.
tell you two apart from that far away.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That
How
is
much is
awesome.
that drone worth?
I know.
Probably like $30,000.
$30,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
It's like another car.
well, I had my phone out. I wasn't gonna do this, but I want to show you this is 400 feet up. This is a unconscious woman laying in a swamp at night when I said at 1:24 a.m. when I got caught. That white is her laying down.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
And she glows like a firecracker. And then the two on the top of it are the police officers that I said, I'm hovering over her. Just
you
walk
tell
to
you
the
where to,
drone.
yeah.
Just
Oh
walk
my
to the drone.
gosh. Wow.
Yep.
Oh my god.
That's
The
incredible.
good stuff that
Yep.
comes from that. I
It's
just
incredible.
yeah.
Yeah. And that is, like you said, that's what we have access to.
Yeah. What's the government
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So just that zoom,
Yeah.
that's what we have access to. And that's without spending a lot of money. And that's not a lot of money when it comes to that technology.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, I'm curious where things are going to go over the next few years with AI and just automation and stuff, because I'm able to do what would have taken 10, 20 people to do, 10, 15 years ago, just with the marketing aspect of this podcast and, creating intros and extras and, or just biographies and stuff like that. It clearly was wrong with yours. I apologize, but I mean,
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's-
Dana downloaded some AI photography thing, and she did a couple pictures of me, and they're funny. Like there's one with me in a suit on a Learjet, and I'm sitting there like this, but I look and I have like 8 fingers on my hand.
oh yeah.
Right? Isn't that
Yeah.
So,
weird?
like
Like, why
that,
did
so
you
it
do
taught me
that?
something to look out for. And
Yeah.
AI is look
Yeah.
attention to detail to be able to tell if it's legit or
Something
not.
with hands, it just can't do hands. I think it can now. It's starting to get better, but
Like, even in like our logo thing, your hands are like this, but it's like it's
Something.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is weird.
it's going to be an interesting 5-10 years.
Yeah.
Very interesting, I feel.
You look at I'm big on cars, and if you're on Facebook, and there's all kinds of things pop up about concept cars, and they try to sell them as this is the next Ford whatever.
Yeah.
But then if you look, the writing on the back is spelled wrong, or something is
right.
just not quite right,
Yeah.
or the license plate is something. So he's like, no, it's AI, 100% AI.
There's going to be
so
a point where it's
scary.
indistinguishable from reality, though.
Yes.
Even podcasts and stuff could be
Yeah, but
completely...
videos, like you could be saying something, that's AI, and it's like not really you.
Wasn't
So it's
you?
like anything that's like government wise, like that's
Yeah.
very scary.
I mean, they have the ability, I believe, to do that right now. I mean, you essentially... Every single thing we see on the TV could be recreated,
Yep.
and it's just... Yeah. Don't even want to go down that paranoia route, but
And
it's-
what's
Yeah.
funny is I was talking about this last night. Do you remember the movie Behind Enemy Lines? With the jets. It was during the Bosnian War.
I've seen it.
Owen
so long
Wilson
that I
was in
remember
it.
I don't
Whatever.
remember it.
When I first watched that, when I first watched that, I thought the flying was some of the best flying I've ever seen in a movie. The explosives and everything else. You watch it now, you're like, That's so bad.
That's so like
It's
yeah.
so bad, but you can tell it's all fake and this and that.
Yeah.
The flying was still good, but that now
Yeah.
you watch a movie today,
Modern Top Gun.
you can't tell.
Yeah.
You can't tell,
Yeah.
and you know it's not real. It's like mind bending.
It messes
So,
with your mind. Yeah.
Anything about AI and law enforcement and things we're going to be able to do, I probably won't be around for it, but it's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just opens up so much. Maybe make people's lives safer and better.
Hopefully.
That's what I'm
Hopefully
hoping
it'll
for.
go that
I'm
positive.
optimistic.
I'm optimistic.
route, you know?
I was actually, when I grew up in Old Forge, my best friend and I were the first two to get picked to learn how to use the computer. And the computer back then,
Yeah.
we're talking probably 1982.
Oh.
And a computer was this thing that kind of looked like a typewriter. And it had the green and other green line paper
Green
that came
screen.
out. and
Oh, yeah, yeah,
printed,
yeah.
And you would put in code and it would print up stuff. There was no screen at all.
Oh,
And
weird.
then we went to the Commodore 64s
Oh,
and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
You probably read about those in the history books.
Yep. Never used one.
But we went to those and we created programs like if-then programs that if the little kids, so we did it for the second graders and third graders, if they got a math question right, little balloons would come up. We'd make these
Oh,
balloons
so
come up.
funny.
So I've been around computers and technology since then.
Yeah.
And even the drones, I talked to that same friend of mine. I talk to him daily. He actually just texted me while I was sitting here. He's in Florida. And we talk about how blessed we were to have grown up when we did and where we did.
Yeah.
When I fly drones for work, I'll text him and be like, dude, could you have even imagined when we were teenagers that I would have this thing in my hand right now
Yeah.
and be doing what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Just incredible. It's incredible.
It's
You take for granted.
Yeah.
There's everything that was this. You think of what this takes the place of, and
Yeah.
when I took over the station commander job at SB Marcy, I don't like clutter, and I was going through the file cabinet, and there were the owner's manuals for the shop vac in the garage, and this,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
threw them all out.
Yep.
And one of the sergeants there, he goes, "What are you throwing that out for?" I go, "Dude, the owner's manual to everything that's ever been built in the existence
Yeah.
of man is right here. It's
Yeah.
right here. You
Yep.
don't need a file cabinet for that stuff. It's right there."
And they still like do that. Like we still get paper mail all
Yeah.
the time, like junk mail.
Yeah.
You want this
Yeah.
credit card? You want that credit card? I'm like, can you just stop wasting paper?
My insurance agent, God love him, he's a wonderful guy. He still sends those little calendars on the
Yes.
hard cardboard.
Yeah.
Like, dude, it's cost me money to throw this in the
Yeah.
garbage. It costs me money to send it to me. I don't need a calendar.
Yeah.
And anyway,
Oh, that's funny.
so it's the technology, especially in this line of work, is the promise is incredible.
Oh yeah.
And I try to look at, I try not to think about Skynet, I try to look at the positive that can come of it. 'Cause
Yeah.
AI, we're not even going down that road, but AI could be very scary.
Oh yeah, I know.
But-
Yeah, I agree. Hey, sorry, I was just listening to the radio.
Yes.
Yeah, no, we were just talking about that at work. Skynet.
Wait, what is Skynet?
Terminator.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean,
It sounds familiar.
The machines become self-aware.
well, we started using. You're familiar with like virtual reality and obviously first-person drones. You got to be aware of these things, but we actually started using something that's speaking of technology being incredibly beneficial for just about anybody. But we use what's called a VR trip, and it's a virtual guided meditation that does guided breath work. And I started playing around because I had a VR headset, and I started the same month. I just decided kind of like where you made a point to, I'm going to change the way I live. I just started working out. I started meditating and stuff, and that's one of those things that I started using. I've never meditated before. Never thought I'd be saying that word my entire life. And but I tried it, and I'm just like, I feel a lot better afterwards.
Changes.
And I've talked to a lot of Navy SEALs and Berets and stuff, and a lot of these individuals that they've done a lot of Navy SEALs specifically. They do box breathing apparently.
Yes, box breathing. Yep.
It's
I when I remember, I try to do that.
yeah.
I was going to ask
my
what
watch
you.
tells me.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So like, if you're like stressed out and gone through crazy times, is that like, what do you do to kind of let loose and breathe and?
Just keep going forward.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Progress.
I don't know any different. I just
Right.
put your head down and keep moving. I don't understand. You were talking about this generation. I'm of the generation, and I don't want to sound like the people before me, but you pull up your bootstraps and you get stuff done. You just get through it.
When life gets hard, you keep going.
Yes,
Right.
there'll be a time to rest.
Yeah.
People always joke around. I was telling all the things I do. Well, when do you ever relax? I think I'm lazy, honestly. I spend a lot of time on the couch with my dog eating popcorn. I just it just it's what you know.
Yeah.
I was telling you about some medical issues and somebody I take right now. I'm off every medicine I was on. I take a cholesterol medicine right now because it's preventative.
Yeah.
And somebody told me, well, it makes you sore. I'm like, all I've known is sore my entire life.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm sore
Yeah.
because it's what I wake up and I joke around. I'm like, I feel like I'm 20 until I try to stand up or get out of bed.
Yeah.
But that's all I know is sore. So I don't know. But the box breathing, my watch will say get up. One thing about this job and my last job is there's just a mountain of administrative work. And sometimes I'll come to work and I'll get here at 7 and I'll look up and I'm like, it's 11:30. I have not moved yet. And I'll try to stand up. And be like, you can't do that. And my watch tells you. It tells me, get up.
Yeah, ours is like, get up, you got to walk right now.
Yep. My old office, SP Marcy, it was 480 steps around. I'd leave my office, take a right, go in every room, back out through the whole building. It was 480 steps back to my desk. And I would get up, working the night shift, and I have to get up and walk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like every hour, I try to get my 10,000 in. I don't get it here at all.
Yeah.
But every hour, I'd get up and do my steps.
Yeah.
One thing I'm looking forward to about working, I've never worked in a small village, and I really was worried about it because I grew up in Old Forge. I went to the sheriff's office, Oneida County, maybe 1,200 square miles, something like that. I don't even know what it is. It's a big county. New York State is a lot bigger. So I had jurisdiction, the whole state. I was going all over the place. And now I have a 2 square mile village.
Yeah.
But I'll
Big
be honest,
change.
I can't wait for the nice weather
Yes.
to drive up, park my car on Main Street, and get out and walk.
Yeah.
And walk in and out of businesses and just walk around.
Yeah.
And that's what I like doing.
Yep.
And I can't wait for that. So
You're going to love it.
it will, and
Yeah.
that'll make up. I will tell you, and getting off topic here, but the few times I've gone into town so far, and I'm looking forward to being a cop here and not just an administrator. The people here have been absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, I love this village.
I forgot how many names I knew and forgot over the years, and the connection I had with this village. I grew up about 10 miles east of here in Woodgate. I used to ride my bicycle here. I had my first haircut here, and it was in the Boonville Herald because I was 2 years old in a hair bag. My father got me a haircut, and I was crying. And my sister sends it to me on my birthday every year. The picture from me in the Boonville Herald.
Hilarious.
My dentist was Dr. Vella in town. My vet was Dr. Policky on the other side, right down the street here. My doctor was Carl Zott, who was the doctor up here forever. My both parents worked in this village their whole adult lives.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's
That's cool.
it's weird that I ended up here.
Yeah.
It's like,
Like you came back here.
did I come back here, or did this place bring me?
You know, when
Right.
we were at your retirement party and I saw Carl Trainer and I forgot he existed, I forgot his name, and I was standing there, I was looking at your photos and your cake and whatnot, and he's standing next to me, he's like, "Are you a trooper?" I'm like, no, I'm like, and I recognize his voice, I'm like, wait, I know you from somewhere. He's like, I know you from somewhere. I'm like, I used to work for the village of Boonville. He's like, it's Carl Trainer. He shakes my hand. I'm like, oh,
One of the nicest people
guy
you'll ever meet.
Oh, so friendly.
If anybody ever tells you a bad story about Carl Trainer,
It's a lie.
you gotta do a deep dive
Yeah.
into them. Carl is one of the nicest people you ever
Yep.
meet.
Oh, I would be in Stewart's getting coffee, and he would come in there, and he was just so supportive and so loving, and just
He came to my swearing in.
Yep.
He dropped off a case of oranges here. I had lunch with one of the guys that helped MC my party, and he met us for lunch.
Yep.
I just was a wonderful person.
Yeah.
He's just a good
It
dude.
was-
So just the connection I've had to this community,
Yeah.
and just having gone to the big city and lived my whole life down there, and forgot what a cool little village it is.
yeah,
And there's the extremes up here.
Yep.
The extremes from one end to the other. The other day, again, I've been this trooper that drives around in a car with the windows up for my whole career. And last Friday, I was going to be off. I'd worked 5 days already. and I was looking forward to being off, and I had a guitar lesson planned and all this stuff planned, and I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning to a text from one of the crossing guards that she was sick. And I was able to get somebody to cover the morning for me because I was at a Genesis group function. I do the national anthem for some different events.
Oh, nice.
cool.
And I was doing the national anthem at Harts Hill for 350 people.
Oh my gosh.
And I couldn't get anybody to cover the crossing guard at the school in the afternoon. And I was like, all right, canceled my guitar lesson and everything else I had to do. And I jumped in the car and came up here. I threw my yellow vest on, and I went and did crossing guard. It was freaking cool.
Yeah.
It was cool. All the little kids and high-fiving them and
So
wishing a
cute.
good
Awesome.
weekend. And it was like, this is cool.
Yep.
Never got to do that in my career. One of my former troopers texted me because he drove by and he's like, oh, doing crossing guard today. I'm like, I worked with you guys for so long, it prepared me well for working with these little kids here. But it was neat, you know?
Cool. I like that.
It's the little things, you know,
Yes.
that you
Yeah.
just don't realize sometimes.
One of the patrols here, Kelly Borst, the first time I met her, she came in, and I was like, oh, thank God you're here. Can you go handle crossing guard? Because the crossing guard had grand jury today and whatever. So she's like, I love doing that. I'm like, why would you love to? Whatever. So it's cold out. I don't like being. She went up, she came back, she goes, thank you so much. I had such
Aw.
a good time. I'm like,
Now you understand.
Yeah.
and I went.
now you get it.
I was not looking forward to it. I'll be honest with you. I don't like being cold, but I did
Yeah.
two things. I got my steps in because I was walking all over the place, and I really enjoyed myself.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that's good for the kids too, because
Oh,
some kids
yeah.
only interactions with cops or
Yeah.
at domestics with their mom and dad
Yeah,
or whatever, you
they
know.
get
So
scared
just
of 'em.
but yeah, just hey, I love your hat. What are you doing wearing Crocs? It's freaking
Yeah.
13 degrees out. You're wearing Crocs. He's like, oh, I'm warm. I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
have a good day.
Where's
Keep
your
your toes
jacket?
warm.
Yeah.
And then I got done. I didn't know what I was doing. I never knew. I got done. I looked around. Everybody's gone. I'm like, okay. And I walked into a couple businesses and just, hey, I want to introduce myself. What's going on? I'm like, nothing's going on. I just want to say hi. Oh, okay. And then got my car and went home. It's like,
Is everything okay?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just, what's
so
up?
I'm really looking forward to when it warms up a little bit and I get caught up on this stuff to get out and actually
Oh, yeah.
talk to people.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not a politician, but it's like part of this job is getting out and,
Yep.
and talking to people.
And they'll love it. Oh, my gosh.
They need that.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yep.
I wanted to ask you earlier. This is something we got stuck on a tangent. But as far as imposter syndrome, did you ever deal with imposter syndrome? Did you ever deal with feeling like super nervous doing certain things in your career? Or
So give me a little better definition of imposter
imposter syndrome is I suffer from it horrible. Just feeling like you're worried about judgment, talking to people that are essentially that are more established than you are,
Or like you're not good enough. You know,
Yeah.
you can't do what you want to do like you should do it, you know. And
I probably suffer from an inferiority complex on a lot of things, but I will say one of the things that I'm glad that I matured into is I really don't care what people think about me.
Yeah, I'm
And
working on that.
It's tough to get there.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm probably lying because everybody cares what they think about
a
me.
little,
least a
little
little,
bit.
but-
But where
yeah.
you put it.
Yeah.
I learned, so just before I made sergeant, I knew I was going to be promoted. I knew it was like a week away. And I was supposed to go to taser training for the first time. And I was like, I'm not doing that. We don't carry them as sergeants. I'm not wasting my time. And I was nervous about getting tased. And I joked around, and it's like, I said, you know, some of the guys want to get tased because,
Yeah.
you know. And I went, you know what? I don't have anything to prove to anyone anymore. I just don't, and I don't care.
Yeah.
So, were you there for the end of my retirement party?
No,
When I,
we left at like 8:30 or so.
okay.
Something
One
like
of the things you missed a very funny speech, by the way.
Oh,
One of the things I said to my troopers, quite a few of my troopers were there, and they are why I've done my job as long as I have. And one of the things I said is, the only person you need to get right with is the one that's looking back at you in the mirror. And I truly believe that.
yeah.
And I truly believe every now and then you have to stop and literally look in that person's eyes.
Yeah.
Because nobody's going to look more in depth at that person than you are. And I don't mean figuratively, I mean literally look at that person and be right with the person who's looking back at you.
Yeah.
And that all those other people that you worry about, if you're living up to their expectations or not, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
It really doesn't.
Everybody has a different viewpoint of you. Everybody looks at themselves differently. I learned that no one is as good as you think they are, and no one is as bad as you think they are.
Yeah.
No one. Everyone has good, everyone has bad. When I've trained troopers, and I was FTO at the sheriff's office, I told them, don't be like me. I don't want you to be like me. When I train DREs, I've been the lead instructor of multiple classes, and I love doing it, but I'm like, do not be like me. I don't want 20 carbon copies of me out there from this class. You take the best part of every DRE that comes up in front of you in this next 2 weeks, that there's going to be 30 of them up here. You take the best part of every one of them and the best part of you, and you make the best DRE you can. Please don't be like me. You know, so after realizing, you pull back the curtain on some people and you realize people aren't everything you thought they were, and they're not as little, you know, they're not as bad or as good, then you start to worry less about what they think about you. And when you get to that point and you can do that, and you know, I struggle with it sometimes too, but when you get to that point and you can do that, it changes your perspective on you, and it changes your perspective on the world. You know?
Well, I've always had this problem where I've always associated every single bit of success that I've had with luck. I'm like, because I dropped out of high school and I got my GED and never got any certifications or anything. And as far as like my career, I've done quite well, you know, in IT and working as a, you know, systems engineer and security engineer. And then with Monica, like, you know, all my guy friends always be like, what did you do to deserve her? You know, and I still question. I say, there's got to be crazy in there somewhere.
Don't ask.
Just go with it.
I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop for 14 years.
I'm at 8 years, going on 9 years this year. But, I've never consciously made the thought I can look in the mirror and be like, you know, I like who you are. I like myself. I like the way I treat other people. And I've never been there until going through really hard times over the past 2 years and just kind of reanalyzing and just looking at life completely differently. Then I realized, I'm like, you know what? I didn't luck out my whole damn life. I have been really lucky. I've been very fortunate, rather. But just the way you treat other people and the way you make other people feel, whether you're a police officer treating, you know, pedestrians, it's like the way there's almost, if not, there's nothing more important than the way you make other people feel, in my opinion.
And I always tell him it's not only luck, he works for everything that he wants. He's a very hard worker.
You can't be that lucky. You know what I'm saying?
It's not all luck, right?
I agree in humility. I agree with humility. You know, you got to stay humble. And I'm a big believer of good things happen to good people. Whether it's luck or whether it's through hard work, eventually good things happen. A lot of bad things happen too to good people. But
that's life.
I
It's
think
what you do with it.
I think life evens it out. You know. I don't know. You can try to explain everything, and some things you just can't explain. But I believe that karma is a real thing.
I
believe that too.
It's like they say there's like a positive feedback loop. When you put out the good, you're eventually going to catch up to you. But I also think when you interact with people, you essentially absorb a piece of every single person you're around, you interact with.
100%.
Which that's why it's so hard to be a corrections officer, I believe. But
at my retirement party, did you see the gentleman that gave me my actual retirement certificate?
Yes.
Musco?
Yep.
I rode to Albany with him for the better part of 4 years, and we were classmates together in the academy. We came we were in this because his last name is M. I'm O. We were in the same quad together in our very first night in the academy for our first week or two, and we've gotten pretty close. And Lord knows he's been through more than any parent should ever go through. Our trips to Albany, we laughed and we cried. And I learned more from just talking to him. And to this day, I reflect on some of the things that I learned from him just by talking to him and just two dudes joking. And some of the stuff he taught me. He's a person of extremely strong faith, and strong values and strong morals, and to have had just a little bit of him rub off on me, I think helped me get to the point where I am right now, to where I'm comfortable with who I am and not really worried about what other people think of me.
Yeah.
And then think of it the opposite too, though. You probably taught him so much too.
And he said that the other night, and I was surprised to hear it.
Aw.
Because I don't, you don't feel like that. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people. You're incredibly humble, and when you mentioned like you laugh and cry with this guy, it's like I've realized the power of just vulnerability, because I've always been abnormally open about just talking about what I'm going through with friends and family.
And your emotions.
And yeah. But I've found the connections that I've made in the past 2 years with people, and when I say connection, not big or small people, I mean just strong connections with, like this Afghan refugee that he started working at Slocum Dixon that I worked at. I've told this story, I think, on a couple different podcasts, so I'll give you a skinny version of it because it's pretty cool. He escaped the troop withdrawal in 2021, and we hired him at my last job, and just, broken English, but just such a nice freaking guy. You immediately talking to him, you could just tell he's just so appreciative and grateful for life. And I was going through hell, like we were talking about earlier, just not doing well. And we were alone. I'm like, hey man, how do you like America? And he's like, over here, I'm very poor. Over there, I'm very rich. And I started kind of laughing because I thought he meant money. He's like, no, not you American type rich. He's like the real rich. He's like, all my friends and family, everybody I know over there. Over here, my family alone, we barely speak English. And he's like, but he takes out his cell phone. He shows me selfies on him in this cargo plane, the C-130, packed in there. So they're on there, I forget, I want to say like 16 hours or something, no bathrooms. And when I say they're packed in there, like nobody was laying down. There wasn't enough room to lay down. And him telling me how they went to escape Afghanistan, and like their flight got canceled, so they had to get sent back home. And he worked for the U.S. Embassy, so he's like, he's going to be killed by, But the important thing was, though, like that conversation, that changed my life, listening to him. Like I thought I was going through shit, which I was, but I didn't escape for my life. I mean, he was just grateful that he's here and he has food. And the poor guy was at Fort McCoy for 2 weeks, and they were prepared for, I think he said, 6,000 or 7,000 refugees. They had 27 or 37,000 or something like that. And like for 2 weeks, they were in line for food. Literally 24/7. You get breakfast, you're in line for 7 hours before breakfast. You eat, you're in line for lunch, or you're not going to eat lunch. And his whole family, little kids, and it's pretty cool.
It's all about perspective.
We end up taking him out on on Oneida Lake on our boat, and
So cute.
Freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
I told him, hey, what are you doing this weekend? Right after that conversation, he's like, we just bought this like pontoon boat, and he's like, oh, nothing. I'm like, oh, you want to go out on a boat? He's like, a boat? He's like, oh, I don't swim. I'm like, you don't have to swim. I got life jackets. And he's like, okay. And like, you bring your family if you want. And I didn't think he would really. Well, I told him Saturday morning, we like to sleep in a little bit, generally Saturdays. I wake up at like 8:15 to my phone ring, and it's him. And he says, hey, my family, we're here at Sylvan Beach.
We're like, oh, okay.
Crap, all right, like my boat I had to, it was on the trailer, so I had to go launch it. I'm like, give me 45 minutes. But we took him out, and it was like the most rewarding day of my freaking life. Like they were little kids.
They were terrified at first,
like,
but then.
When I say terrified,
cute.
I mean they're like stepping onto the boat very carefully, and like they're sitting down. I give them life jackets, and his wife and his 3 kids and
nephew.
But they look like they were at Disney World, and it's cool. Yeah. I end up leaving that company, and he sends me a message. I hope you're doing well. I'll never forget my adventure at Sylvan Beach.
Boat adventure.
Boat adventure at Sylvan Beach.
It's something you take for granted.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You get in it, it's just another
Let's go.
time out in the
Yeah.
boat.
Yeah, and like it realistically didn't really cost me anything to do. And
that was something he'll never forget.
Yeah.
and his kids
Yeah.
and his wife.
Yep.
Sorry, cut off on a tangent, but you had really good questions.
We talked about everything.
Okay, I just want to make sure because she had me like.
No, we talked about everything that we wanted to get into.
I do have, so I've been trying to do this. I forgot to do this for some of them, but I'm trying to, when I have a guest, I'll have them ask the next guest a question. And Crizel last night had a really good question for you because her son's going into the academy, or he just started the academy. Or
The State Police Academy?
Yep.
Good for him.
And I just, before we came here, she gave me a question for you. It's pretty straightforward, but what's his advice for a younger person starting out in law enforcement that he wishes someone told him when he was just starting out?
Don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
No. Learn something every day.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to take direction.
Yeah.
I have a 3-page, this is my drawer here, 3-page outline that every time I get a new trooper in, I sit down and go over this outline. I tell them, I want to know about you, and I want you to know about me. Because it's not fair to either one of us if we don't understand what we expect of each other. And I want to know what you expect of me, and I want you to know what I expect of you.
Yeah.
And somebody new starting this job, take every opportunity to learn something that you can. Every opportunity.
I like that.
That's huge. I mean, there's so many opportunities in this line of work, between training, between just looking at people and people around you, and you can learn something from the best police officer. You can learn something good from the best police officer. You can learn something bad from the best police officer, and you can learn something good from the worst police officer and something bad from the worst police officer. So you need to just absorb it.
Yeah.
And then another thing is, be a cop for a while. There's so many people that come in this job and you go, as soon as they get in this job, I want to be a forensics person because I watched NCIS on TV or something, or I want to be an investigator, I want to be this. Be a cop for a while.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think in this career you should get promoted for 10 years. State police is 4. I literally waited 20 years before I got promoted on purpose. I came out at 21 years old. I was immature. Didn't know what I didn't know. I still, I'm still immature, but at 5 years, I remember as a deputy, and I remember I was driving I remember what car I was driving or anything. I remember driving around one day and looked down on that radio and I said, no matter what comes over that right now, I think I can handle it. It took 5 years. And we have administrators in Albany and we have supervisors on this job that you have to have 3 years on before you take the sergeant's test. So out of that 3 years, 6 months is the academy. 6 months is kind of your training and getting your feet wet.
Yeah.
So you got 2 years doing this job. You don't even know what you don't know yet.
Yeah.
And then to get promoted,
Yeah.
and then let's say you're a good test taker and you make sergeant and then you make lieutenant and then next thing you know you're a captain or a major and you never did the job. So be a cop for a while is a huge piece of advice, because this profession has a huge lack of leaders. We have a lot of bosses.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of leaders. I never wanted to be a boss. I don't think I'm a boss. I've never once told a subordinate that I was their boss.
Yeah.
I would hope that just by our interaction, I'm a leader.
Yeah.
And that's the best reward you can have in this job. I don't know if I'm a good leader or a bad leader. I
think your retirement party kind of reflected that quite
Right?
well, to be honest
Yeah,
with you.
for real.
bad.
There was quite a bit of people there. I was like, there's no place to park.
I know.
I almost couldn't get out of the parking lot.
I'm still overwhelmed by it. It's a blur. I got here this morning, I sat down and I said I have to text a couple of people just to let. I talked to John, the guy that talked about my career at first with a deep voice.
Yep.
He was a god to me on the job. He was the picture of the New York State Police when I came on. And to hear him tell me what he learned from me, I'm like, no, you're lying. You're just being good. You're being nice to me.
Being nice.
But one thing I told him, he came up here the Monday or Tuesday before my party and said, I'm taking you out to lunch. I didn't realize he was on a fishing expedition and he was trying to get fodder for, which is good. He wanted to know about my career and this and that and some things. But one thing I told him, I go, John, I didn't even want to party. And that I was worried that, and I still know that it happened. I was worried that I didn't get time to spend with anybody there. And to me, it's like, I didn't want to have all those people there, and if I wanted to have 20 minutes to sit at every single table.
It's like a wedding. You looked like how I felt at my wedding with her.
But everyone was there for you.
Yeah.
To support you.
That's what John said. And they're going to find their own groups and this and that. And, but I did say, I go, it's going to be like my wedding, and I have very little memories because it's a blur. One thing, next thing you know, you're home. I woke up the next morning. I'm like, did you get the plate number? She goes, of what? I go, the bus that ran me over. I don't drink. I didn't have anything to drink.
Barely ate.
It was a blur to me. I barely ate. I got my 10,000 steps in for sure.
Yeah.
But it was, I laughed, cried a little bit. Believe it or not, two of the most emotional things were listening to my son, and having my badge my shield that I carried for 32 years get put in my hand because I didn't know if I was ever going to see it again. And what's funny, John was, when he told the story about how I bait and switched him into coming to planning and research, John was a investigator in Oneida in major crimes, and probably one of the best police officers you'll ever meet in your life. And he decided to take the senior investigator's job in my old planning and research office. And it's a small office, like the size of this space here is the State Police Planning and Research. And he took the job, and shortly after he got there, I left. He's like, you baited and switched me. But while he was there, he found out nobody's ever done this in it's been 107 years, the New York State Police, 108 years. When I retire, they take my shield and they melt it down. And then they wait a year to reissue that shield number, and then they give it to a new trooper.
Wow.
And he said, why don't we give that person, that was their identity, that was who they were, they carried that shield as a piece of them.
Yeah.
I carried that for 32 years. It was brand new and shiny. I got this Friday. Brand new. It was brand new. And 32 years from now, if I won't be here, but if I carried this for 32 years, imagine what this thing has seen and felt and heard.
Yeah.
So he started a program, and when he first came up with the idea, if you'd asked me if I thought I'd get through, I told you there's a 2% chance. And he's the one that got it. I turned it in on my last day, and it was difficult. And at that party, he put it in my hand.
That's awesome.
I would have cried.
And what they do is we're New York State Police, they laser etch retired on the top and the bottom, and on the back they put your name and your rank and your dates of service.
That's awesome.
And to get that back I started crying.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
And then listen to my son, the jerk. He's the one that had the baby.
Yep.
It was a blur. The party was a blur. You know, I've done a lot. I've done a lot in this job. Like I told you, I was in New York City for 9/11 for 5 weeks, 6 weeks. I was in Hurricane Katrina. I was down in New Orleans for a month.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. I was a New York State trooper and a Louisiana State trooper for a year. We were cross sworn. So
really,
in fact,
that's pretty cool.
On New Year's, when they had that horrific incident on Bourbon Street, I knew exactly where I was because I walked Bourbon Street. I texted two of my partners from then. That was 2005, so 20 years ago. I texted two of them that day to ask them how they were doing and talked to both of them. One is in Austria, retired.
Oh.
But it was, all the things in my career, that retirement party is one of the things that's going to stand out the most. New York City, you talk about PTSD. I can't tell you how many times I woke up literally with the thought of debris falling on me. And just woke up
scary.
I was there on the 11th. My brother lives in Manhattan, and it's funny. On the 10th, I was here in Boonville.
Really?
It's weird. My father was convinced that he had information on where people were growing a whole bunch of marijuana. So I had a helicopter assigned to me that day, and the weather was bad, so they couldn't fly. So I came up here in a beat-up, unmarked car and grabbed my dad and had him drive me to where he thought all the stuff was. So on September 11th, I hadn't shaved because I didn't have to the day before, and I put my kids on the bus. I went in my bedroom, turned the TV on, went to shave, and I went, I thought it was file footage, and like, when did a little airplane crash in the World Trade Center? Because you saw the little mark and the smoke coming out,
Yeah.
and I was like, my brother works in Manhattan, and that first plane flew straight over the top of his. He was
Oh
in the
my gosh.
first tall building from Central Park. They flew right over his building and rocked his building, and I called work, and I said, well, as soon as the tower fell. You didn't realize how big it was until that tower fell.
Yeah.
And I called work and I said, if we're sending people, please put me on the list. They said, you're already on the list, start packing your stuff.
Oh, wow.
And we met at Marcy, we waited till the other zones came down, and then we drove from here to Stewart Air Force Base, where they gave us latex gloves and masks. Like, that was our protection.
Wow.
And I think I worked 20 some hours straight the first day. We went to the Javits
How
Center.
many of you went down?
From D Troop, probably 100.
Really?
Just from this
Wow.
troop. And again, we spent, I spent 6 weeks down there.
Wow, man.
Yeah. You
Did
went
anyone get hurt from there? From
from the state
Troop?
police?
Yeah.
Well, when you say get hurt,
Probably respiratory issues, I imagine.
we've lost, I can name several friends that have died of cancer from 9/11 related illness.
Yeah.
And in my speech in my retirement, I had researched the numbers, and since I became a trooper, I think it was 68 troopers have lost their lives in line of duty.
Wow.
And New York State, I can't remember the numbers, might have been 600 and something. No, it's more than that. Have died in the line of duty, and more than a third of those were 9/11 related illness.
Wow.
You know,
Oh, that's awful.
I go to I'm in the medical monitoring program where I go once a year and get checked out for all that.
Yep.
Wow.
Just started doing that just a couple of years ago because I hadn't been to the doctor in a very long time. But yeah, that was one of the more memorable things. Standing, and you'd go down for a week, come home for a few days, go back down for a week, come home for a few days. Every time I went back to the city for the first 5 weeks, the pile was still on fire.
Oh my gosh.
So when you went over the George Washington Bridge, you looked to your right down the highway and you saw the lights down there and you saw the smoke still coming up.
Yep.
And I'll never forget the smell down there. Just that's something nothing will ever smell like that. But
Yeah.
and every time I went there, I got pissed again. I got mad again at the world.
Yep.
What was if you saw the table that Dana had set up at the retirement, there was the pictures from 9/11. I took those photographs.
Oh, okay.
And there was a saying from Rudy Giuliani, and my service pin from being down there was on that
Oh.
that plaque. And what Giuliani said was the best of mankind is met the worst of mankind,
Yeah.
which is true. We didn't know what we were going to be getting into.
Yeah.
And we brought riot shields and riot batons and riot gear, and we very quickly realized we didn't need any of that down there, and that the people there were phenomenal. One of my first posts was at Washington and Canal Street, and we were keeping people from the pile. And people were bringing us. The people were coming down the street. There were. I remember this one group of girls from NYU with a shopping cart full of socks and
Oh.
batteries and soda, and they were just going from post to post. Hey, what do you need? And they were giving
Wow,
us
that's
stuff.
amazing. Yeah. These people don't hear about that either.
Yeah.
No, on our trips, we'd go to Javits for our check-ins because we went. You got to make sure you leave with all the people you came with. So you check in at Javits, get your assignment, go to your post, and on our way to post every day, the West Side Highway was lined with people holding up signs of support and thanking us for being there. Fast forward to 2020, 2021, and you talk about the pendulum, and
Yeah.
it went completely the other direction. But you had Katrina and 9/11 were two of the biggest things, and there's been so many in between.
It's kind of crazy when that stuff happens, how people come together when big things like that happen. Why can't we be together now?
I wish you could bottle up
Yeah.
the feelings people had on the 12th
Yeah.
and remind people that this is still the world we live in.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah, that's what Nick Lavery said. You know, that was the reason why he enlisted and went special forces and whatnot initially was 9/11.
Yep.
my son, my son that just had the baby, he was working private sector. He went to RIT. He's a chemical engineer. He's got his master's in chemical engineering. He was working for Rich Foods, the largest family-owned food corporation in the country, and he was working for them. He took the state police test. He moved to South Carolina. Well, he was in the National Guard because he's ROTC. He was in National Guard. His unit got activated to go to Djibouti, Africa, for a year. So he was gone for a year.
A buddy of mine went there.
And that was quite the experience for him. But he's a guy working for a food company, working on the process to make better whipped cream for people. And next thing you know, he's the lieutenant helping run a unit in Africa. So when he got home, he decided to take the state police test, and he scored very well. He was, I think, in the top 200.
Oh, nice.
Awesome.
And we had long talks about it. And here's a father. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah,
My
do
son
it.
to
Yeah.
do what I did.
Yep.
My oldest son is a professional firefighter outside of Rochester.
Cool.
You know, so, and he's also a volunteer firefighter in his fire department. And so it's just to see them in their service. But
Yeah.
so my son, we talked a lot about joining the state police and being a police officer. And then his brother was trying to talk him into being a firefighter. And, you know, that whole police officer firefighter thing. And I'm always sending my son funny memes about being a firefighter. He's always sending me police memes and stuff.
Yeah.
But then I joke around. I'm like, I picked the wrong path. I should have been a firefighter because I could get paid to sleep every night. But so my son decided he went and did the physical for the state police, passed everything with flying colors, just smoked everything. And he decided he wasn't going to take the job. He would have been out of the academy right now and done. He decided not to take the job. The academy actually, the next academy graduates Tuesday. But he interviewed for the spot as the captain running the armory on the Parkway in Utica, and he got it.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
So he's now the captain.
Sweet.
Okay.
And I think he's on a very good career.
Is it like AGR?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah. So that's where he's at, and we were talking last night about his career path, and they've pretty much plotted out. You know, I think he's probably going to be a major in 4 years.
Yeah.
And he's doing well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he moved back here from South Carolina to be close to the family they had their baby, and so
Aw,
it's
proud dad.
just wild, you know.
Yeah.
To see my girls are phenomenal.
Yeah.
But and then my stepson. So you worked to get together. Did you work at Bosie's?
I went to Bosie's. I didn't work at Bosie's.
You worked together somewhere. Zachary Goodyear.
Doesn't ring a bell. There is another Matt Spelsey, mind you, just for the record, and he's from Rome. So
Was he an IT guy?
I know I'm the IT guy.
Yeah. No, Zachary's an IT guy. He worked with you somewhere. I can't remember where.
Do you think it was Turning Stone?
No, he didn't work at Turning Stone.
I was at Slocum for a bit. Does he have social media? I'll have to look up. I want to see pictures on now.
I'll show you his picture because
You'll be like, oh, now I remember.
we took him out to dinner for his birthday. I'll show you a very recent picture from 2 days ago. He's a good dude.
Looks familiar.
He's Wolf Speed.
Okay.
He's like the only IT guy left at Wolf Speed.
Oh yeah.
So he's my stepson.
Okay.
Just turned 33 yesterday.
Yeah.
But it's incredible to see the next generation and
Yeah.
all the good things they're doing. And
Yeah.
he just got engaged.
Yay.
There's nothing better than having a proud father. Oh man, like my parents, my dad, I think for the first time in my life told me he's proud of me, like, you know, a few years back, not that long ago, but that's a good feeling. And
My father was here for my swearing in. I try to be patient, but you know, he drives me nuts. I love him to death.
yeah.
He was here for my swearing in. At my swearing in, a couple people, Rob Mashel had a few things to say. I've known Rob, the sheriff, since the day he became a police officer. Think the world of him. His chief deputy is my son who just had the baby. It's his godfather.
Oh,
So
cool.
it's just, they showed him, surprised me. But so a few people wanted to say a few things, and my father stands up and says, "What a wonderful singing voice I have, and how you got to come see my band sometime." And
Aw,
that was-
that's cute.
I get how proud he is. I'm like, man, that wasn't the place for that.
Yes, it was.
That's awesome, though.
perfect.
It's awesome.
And at my party the other night, I don't know if you heard him talk. He was.
I don't
They
think
handed
I
him the
think I saw
microphone.
your dad talk.
They handed him the microphone, and he tells the same story. Even when I see him, do you remember that time? I'm like, dude, this is the third time this week you asked me. So he
No, I
was.
don't. Tell me.
He was Air Force, and then he went Army National Guard,
Okay.
and he was 42nd Maintenance Division, but he was a recruiter as well. So they gave him an APC to drive from Rome Armory to the Boonville Fair. So I used to hang out
Like a
with him.
113 APC, Armored Personnel Carrier?
Yeah.
Okay, I spent a lot of time in that, so I could keep
So
going.
he drove it up the gorge to Boonville for the fair, and I would sit in the turret or whatever you call
Yeah.
it. I
Oh,
would
fun.
sit in there, and when there were cars backed up, I'd tap him on his shoulder, and he'd move over and let him by and stuff.
Yep.
So he tells that story like literally every time we see somebody.
That's
one
awesome.
of them.
Aw, it's gonna be special for him if he
Yeah.
says that and thinks of it
That's
all
cool.
the time.
Yeah. At my swearing in, he brought the picture of he and I. The back of it was open. He had the Army National Guard recruiting poster up, and he and I standing behind it at the Boonville Fair. He brought that picture to give to somebody here.
Aw,
That's
so cute.
Yeah. So crazy.
What do we? We're at 115 minutes, I think. Does that sound right? What time?
Wow. You know what time it is?
Oh yeah, yeah. We're almost at 2 hours.
It says it right there on the road.
At least the
Where is
battery.
it?
So the battery. I wanted to throw this in there now that I think about this thing shutting off the other night. It was like the worst timing ever.
Yeah,
I
that
would
kind of sucked.
do a shout out for anybody that does watch this. We recorded with Miles Lewis. He's a guy from our church, and he lost his wife 2 weeks ago to cancer, and he's about my age. He's her age. He's 40.
My age.
I'm 37. So, but he's got 4 little kids. Just beautiful family. Like when I say like that family at church, he is just they came
Beautiful,
in, they just
beautiful.
like prim and proper, and I told him one of the first times I listened to this guy talk, I listened to him talk about some of the issues he was going through with his dog business. He's one of the biggest Labrador breeders in the East Coast, maybe the country. I'm not really sure, but he does very, very well with his dog breeding business. But I just remember him talking about his dog issues and being a little envious of his issues. I'm like, man, like what I'm going through is really serious. That doesn't, which you can't do. I mean, people are
You don't know
naturally
the whole
going
story.
to.
Yep.
But I didn't know these are $20,000, $30,000 dogs, fully trained when they get them. But so in this podcast the other night, this is literally 2 nights ago, Friday night, we recorded just about 4 hours in Panther Lake at his camp. And it's like we've talked to a lot of like Navy SEALs and Green Berets and some of these just really hardened individuals, and it's like this guy's the strongest guy I think I've ever talked to. And listen to him talk about what he went through, and just because I remember she got diagnosed like September, October,
Oh,
and
you can't even. You think you have problems,
Yeah.
Somebody who probably thought they were going to be here for
Grow
all
old
their
together,
kids stuff and
right.
grow old, and then next
Yeah.
thing you know, your life is just completely different.
our Alessandra, she's her best friend. She was on our podcast. I talk about her often. She was our first It took me about a year to really start believing what we're doing, which a year's 2 months ago. I've very worried about judgment for a long time. She was that one person at the beginning, from the very beginning, was just like, yeah, this is
She's a
awesome. Keep going.
cheerleader.
And,
Yeah.
she was on an episode. She talked about her life story and what she's went through, which is just beautiful story. I just
She
wish.
actually, it was so long, it was two episodes.
Yeah, we did 2 parts, and it was before I had better audio and nice cameras, and I just wish I wish I could have those back then for her. But she was walking her dog with her husband, and she got hit by
Alessandra?
Yeah.
Alessandra.
That was my daughter's dietitian,
That was my best friend from high school.
Kershaw.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I thought my daughter knew.
Holy crap.
I thought my daughter knew, and I was just talking to her on the phone one day, it was May, right?
End of May.
It was Memorial Day weekend.
My daughter.
Wow.
So maybe 6 months later, I was talking to my daughter on the phone. 5, 6 months later, and I mentioned her, and I said, it's horrible what happened. She goes, what happened? I told her she couldn't talk. She's
Yeah.
and I believe she saved Nicole's life. Nicole was she had eating disorder.
Yeah.
And,
Alessandra did too.
yeah, and Alessandra's secretary at the time, Terry Hazarowitz. Did you know her?
I don't know. No.
Her brother was at my retirement party, who I've known Joe forever. I was talking to Terry in Burlington Coat Factory, like November of last year, and then January she's gone. She found out she had cancer. She's gone like that.
Oh my gosh.
You know, but Alessandra, and she was, I've messages, I've conversations with her on Facebook, from reaching out and talking to her about, she's asking about Nicole, and
Oh my gosh.
yeah, she was Nicole's dietitian. She was one of the only people that I can say saved my daughter's life.
That was her mission. That's why she got into all
Oh my
that.
gosh, man.
And she had
what
had a heart
chance.
attack.
Yeah.
From
I think
her
she had
own-
2.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
she.
I can't. What a small world.
Oh,
You
no
know,
kidding.
that weekend I was sick, and I was so pissed off Memorial Day weekend, and of course we got that boat. I was so pissed off that, I was like, I couldn't get out of bed sick. I never got sick. I'm like, well, I was so pissed off, and I remember her coming into the bedroom, and she just got the phone call, and she was crying, and it like scared the shit out of me. And then she told me what happened, and it just like changed my perspective, man. Like, here I am bitching and moaning about not being able to be on my boat. The week after she passed, we went to her house to visit her husband and his son, Fenner. And everyone there, the whole time everyone maintained composure. You know, nobody really got emotional. I mean,
There were 2 other couples that were all together too.
I had a golf ball in my throat the whole time. But when we got in that car to leave, man, I cried from all the way from down there, from Lebanon, all the way 45 minutes home, just tears streaming down my face. I'm like, that is the strongest man I've ever talked to in my life. Like,
It's
it's so
again, you know, just how quick everything can change.
Yeah.
You know,
that was about a year ago. A year ago this month is when we recorded with her on this podcast.
really.
You know,
Do you have that someplace?
it's
right
on
on
YouTube.
YouTube.
Yeah.
I have to get
Yeah.
that and give it to my daughter,
Oh,
because I think that
yeah.
would be so good for her to see that.
Oh. Yeah.
Yes, she was an incredible person. I
Yep.
used to take. She was at Faxton, and I would take Nikki there like once a week to see her.
I'm so happy I said something. Oh my
Yeah, it's so
gosh,
crazy.
man. This
Because my third cousin was killed down there on her bicycle, and a guy was driving a vehicle and a bee flew in the window,
Oh,
and he went to get the bee and killed her.
you know, I don't know. I was like, I have such a faith in God that I am okay because I know where she is now. But I still have my moments.
she's just, it's like somebody that goes through that amount of adversity from such a young age
Yeah.
and just has a wild story, and like,
Yeah, but you have to think of it like she was put through all of that to tell her story, to help people. And
look
even
at all
though
the
she's
people.
gone, she is never.
In her time here, she did more to help
Yes.
people
Gives me
than
goosebumps.
most people get in their life.
you know,
Exactly.
that's what Miles said the
Yeah.
other night. Miles, like, he believes that the more tragic the circumstances, when he's like, you know, my wife, and this is very tragic, obviously. He's like, but he believes there can be more good that comes out of it than bad.
Like the good's gonna be.
This
really,
guy's saying
really
this
good.
about his wife, that, like,
Please tell him my daughter's story.
yeah, no,
I will.
I'm gonna.
Oh my gosh, we can call him on.
My daughter went. She spent a long time in a residential facility in Philadelphia. That, and she hated it so badly that she didn't want to go back.
Yeah.
And that's what kept her from going back, was hating that facility. She was in college, and Dana and I went up to take her out and went and take her shopping, and
Yeah.
we were in a shoe store in a mall in like Plattsburgh or something, and she bent down to try a pair of shoes, and I put my hand on her back and started crying because I could feel her spine, and it's just. So I went home and I went to work in Albany, and I found the 4 top eating disorder clinics in the country, and I did all my research, and I called her. She was home, and I mean, there were times when I would call my daughter, And she was 17, 18, whatever. And she wouldn't answer, and I worked 96 miles away in Albany, and I would call my neighbor across the street who was in her 70s and be like, Carol, can you please go over and check on Nicole and get her up? And I was worried that she was going to tell me she's not getting up. Wow. And I found those four clinics, and I said, check your email. I'm emailing you something. You're picking one of these. You're going to interview them. You're going to tell me which one you want to go to, and we're going. And she said, okay. And she picked Renfrew in Philadelphia, and picked that one. And I remember driving down. I was literally telling my stepson this story at dinner 2 nights ago. Drove her down there, and I had my state police golf shirt on.
Yeah.
I like to travel. If I travel, I like to wear my state police something. Or state police golf shirt on. And we got there, and they said she needed a phone card and a plastic drinking cup that we didn't have. So I'm like, all right, I'll run and get one. And Philly's a rough city. And he goes, there's a Rite Aid, and you got to go up here and go to. So I go to this Rite Aid. I'm in Rite Aid, and I have an off-duty gun on. It's concealed or whatever. And I'm in Rite Aid, and I hear a commotion, and it turns out it's people stealing baby formula and stuff, and they're fighting with one of the clerks. And I went up to the counter, and they just ran out, and I ripped my name tag off from the little paper name tag from the clinic, and I put it over my state police thing.
Like, nope.
No, I'll be the best witness you could possibly have. And the guy's going, call 911, and the clerk, God bless her, she goes, I'm going to check this customer out first. And she rings me up and lets me go inside me out. But that was Renfrew. My daughter hated it with a passion, but she hated it enough where she knew she wasn't going back. And that was her turnaround. And Alyssa got her through everything after that.
Wow.
Or Alessandra, not Alyssa. Alessandra.
I believe it because, like,
I'm pretty sure. Did they archive her Facebook page? Or is she still?
It's still,
I think it's the
still
same.
there.
She was an angel, in my opinion.
Oh my gosh, not
So-
kidding. Yeah.
Her husband and son went to the Bills game that they were supposed to go to. I believe Alessandra got the tickets. I don't.
So they would always go to the Bills games, and Alessandra. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. She. So Adam, her husband, and her son Fenner went to the Bills game, and they won. And there's all these pictures and stuff, but you can see Fenner and Adam in the back screaming. And they have a sign that says, was it I love you, Mom, or something like that, right?
And it's like, but the guy, I don't know, the football player that he like jumped into the crowd, and you see Fenner and Adam right there, like, and it's like it made like the Buffalo Bills, like, and it's like, thank you, Mom, right there. Like,
oof, gives me goosebumps. It's just,
oh man. Like, what are the odds that she, I don't know, this is crazy, man. Wow.
That's incredible.
Small world, though. That's
But
crazy.
she was an angel.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of people's angels.
I remember telling her what I was going through, and like just the amount of sincere just care and stuff. Like she just,
Yeah.
she was really good to talk to.
What's funny is my daughter's been in some interesting circles, and a lot of her friends are people I probably wouldn't choose to hang around with. She's lost a few to drug overdose.
Yeah.
She's adamant that she has never and will never do that, but you worry. Kurt Wyman's parents, through their church, he is now like a licensed grief counselor, and they do grief stuff. And Nicole reached out to me in early December and said she's had so much loss in her life, and this thing with Alessandra has really brought it to the front again. And I said, I have somebody you need to talk to. And I learned one thing about anybody getting, like I told you about, it has to be your time. You have to want it. I can't drag her.
Right.
I can nudge her. I can lead her. I can't drag her. So I've talked to both Brian and Lynette Wyman about spending time with my daughter to help her.
You should have your daughter reach out to Monica. Like she's Seriously, like, oh man, it's just.
My
Yeah.
daughter is a gem. She's beautiful. She's probably, sometimes I'm like, how is any human this irresponsible? But she's somebody who can walk in a room, and if there's a 3-year-old in there, she can get down on the floor and be best friends with that 3-year-old. If there's a 90-year-old in there, she can sit next to that person and be best friends with that 90-year-old. She is the quintessential people person. She's a cat girl. And she has a wonderful boyfriend. In fact, that light on my vest he gave me for Christmas. I was like, that's the coolest light ever right there.
Oh yeah.
Oh
man, I can't. I'm so I almost didn't say anything about that because I'm like, yeah, I'd talk about maybe too many podcasts. Maybe there's not too many I could talk about.
But a lot of times, I mean, people just watch one episode of something
That's
and then
my
they go
thought.
back and kind of jump around. So it's okay to say stuff like that.
I have to show you her
Yeah.
picture. I joke around. She was the one that was put here to kill me, without question. See, these are both my daughters at my son's wedding. My daughter has had green hair, blue hair, yellow hair, red hair, multiple color hair. But these are my 2 daughters at my son's wedding.
Yeah.
You can guess which one Nicole is.
They are beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful.
Aw.
These are my boys. Miller, the one on the left with the coffee, that's my stepson. The other 2 are
Okay, yeah.
my 2 boys.
Nice. Handsome fellas.
I'm blessed beyond belief with those 2. You talk about people you've come in contact with. This is Andy Card. He was George Bush's chief of staff. Do you remember when on 9/11 when George Bush was reading the story
Yes.
to the classroom? This is the gentleman that came up to him and told him what was happening.
Oh yeah.
So he came
Oh, wow.
on 9/11/23. He came to Harts Hill Inn. I was their keynote speaker one time for the Genesis group for their 9/11 breakfast.
Yeah.
Talking about my experience. He came. He gets probably $50,000 to come and talk. He came here and did it for free for us.
Cool.
Wow.
And talked about it, and it was an unbelievable honor to meet him.
Yeah.
It was, and one thing that just stuck out with him to me was he didn't have a single note. He had no notes. When I talk to a lot of groups and give a lot of presentations, and I hate using notes.
Yeah.
When somebody talks about notes, they're talking from their heart. If somebody sits there and goes,
I like that.
they sit there and read a thing.
Yep.
At my party the other night, I had an outline, and Tony Paceni, the county executive, I talked to him. I go, Tony, I'm gonna tell you I learned my lesson thanks to you. So, that was on this day. I went from Andy Card to our dedication. The Kurt Wyman Memorial Park was right after that.
Yeah.
We dedicated the park, and we built a building, and the building has a blue roof on it for law enforcement for Kurt. And I'm the president of the park, so I ran the show, and I had to give the talk and everything, and I had my list of people to thank. The first person on the list was Dana, my wife.
Awesome.
I started with number 2 on the list. Somehow, I went through the whole list, and everybody said, "What about Dana?" And I'm like, "Oh my God!" So that was the joke with the county executive. So at my retirement party,
my gosh.
Tony, I learned my lesson at the wedding thing.
Yeah.
Dana, and I brought her up, and I had a dozen roses underneath the podium that I'd hidden under there.
Cool.
Made her cry.
So sweet.
Made her cry. There's
That's
Nikki.
awesome.
There's Nikki again with this. This is her crew that she was hanging with.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Love it.
but yeah,
Wow, man.
she was put here to kill me. Wonderful, wonderful girl, and she loves her stepmother. She's wonderful.
Cool.
Yeah,
She'll find herself.
Did you eat lunch yet by any chance?
I did. So, having lost 115 pounds,
Yeah.
I'm pretty regimented. I've had the same breakfast every day for almost 2 years.
Really?
And what is
I've
that?
had- I take 2 eggs. I have a funny coffee cup. Put them in a coffee cup. I blend them up, throw in the microwave for a minute, 25 seconds. A whole wheat English muffin and some olive oil butter, and that's what I have every morning.
Okay.
I look forward to it every single morning. I wake up and I'm like, I can't wait to have breakfast. And it still tastes good to me. I'm not sick of it. And for lunch, I have a banana.
Huh.
And I may have an orange today, but
But I haven't been eating lunch lately either. Yeah, I'm down 30 pounds myself in
you?
the past year and a half or so.
He works out like a fiend,
Yeah,
though.
I've been running and hitting a heavy bag and
Nice.
speed bag.
it's not easy though, is it?
Man, I'm doing 8 miles around Sylvan Beach this time of year. We ran yesterday probably about 5 miles, and then we just took we're like, I looked out in the lake and I saw all the ice fishermen and I see the snowmobile path going down. I'm like, let's do it.
And it was like 12 degrees outside.
It was beautiful.
Freezing, but it was so
was
fun.
so
It's
beautiful.
amazing. being out
Yes.
there, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the drug recognition expert training, it's on new. They go to Kensington and Philly.
Yeah.
I've been to, we go to Jacksonville, and it's my favorite place to go. We go to Jacksonville to a clinic that isn't a clinic, but what we do is they know we're coming. They're booked up 50 weeks out of the year to drug recognition experts from across the country. And the local drug addicts know we're coming. They line up because they come in, they get $20 every time we test them.
Okay.
What's really neat about that, especially being the lead instructor, is you're in the clinic we leave the hotel at like 6 in the morning. We're in the clinic from 7 till noon. We're with the students, we're supervising their evaluations on these people. Then from about noon to 5, the students have to write the reports, and we don't have much to do as the instructors. I am obsessed with walking on the beach.
Aw.
I go down there, I leave my shoes, my shirt, my wallet, everything in the rental car, and I bring my earphones and my phone, and I walk until I can't walk any further. Last February I was down there, I walked 68 miles in 6 days.
Oh
Wow.
my gosh.
And I'm a guy that doesn't walk across the street to get my mail. I don't have time. I'd love to walk. I'd love to run and everything. I haven't ran in years and years. When I was down there this time, my last day I walked 15 miles straight. I've never done it,
Yeah.
and I was just obsessed with
Yeah.
doing it. And I have Ben Shapiro or Jimmy Buffett in my ear,
Yeah.
and I just
Yeah.
would walk.
It's funny. We ride motorcycle down to the beach, and we'll wear. And people probably see us like, what are those idiots doing? But we
Yeah.
live right outside the beach on 49.
Yeah.
But I'll throw on flip flops, have a shirt and shorts on. Then we get down, we'll park next to where the roller coaster is, and
Yeah.
I'll throw my shit in my saddlebag and my bike. We'll go run the beach together.
It's
awesome.
so hard.
So that was
it's fun.
my station for a while. The
Yeah,
barracks right
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And that window hadn't been open in decades. And first thing I did is I got a utility knife and I cut all the paint off
Yeah, I
and I
was
opened
gonna
that window
say.
so I could listen to the music. Harpoon
Yeah,
Eddie's is
yeah.
where my band was born.
Oh,
Where we were
cool.
conceived. I joke around. We were conceived right here.
I wonder if I've seen you play before and just didn't know you. You know,
Maybe.
I had
Do you
to
go
have.
there anymore? Do you play there
Oh yeah,
anymore?
we got 3 or 4 gigs there this summer coming.
You better
We'll be
let
there.
me know every time
Yeah.
you're there. And if
You're
I
on
could live
Facebook.
stream you for you if you want me
Please.
to.
That'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
Let me show you
That'd
a
be so
picture.
fun.
That's one of my favorite places to play. And actually,
Me too.
we're playing twice. We played once last year at at the
Lake House?
no, it's on the south end out of town. It used to be Schneibel's. Oh God, I was escaping me. It's Eddie R. Curry runs the place. It's you go past Verona Beach State Park.
Oh,
Oh, the brew house.
Brew house.
Yeah.
Brew house.
Yeah, we're playing
House.
there. We're playing there twice this year.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
I like it there too.
we've only ate there I think twice, and we
Yeah.
loved it both times.
yeah.
It's similar to Ray's Barbecue.
I love Harpoon Eddie's because I can channel my inner Jimmy Buffett.
Well, we brought we had a podcast guest drive up from Ohio, and we took her there to Harpoons for dinner. Mallory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
When I play harpoons, when I play, it can be middle of winter. I don't wear shoes. That's kind of my thing.
It's like your thing.
So I'm the lead singer without my shoes on. We played the Boonville Fair for the first time ever this year. This was at the fair.
I've never been to the Boonville Fair.
It's the beer garden. But I got to show you Harpoon Eddie's because you'll just see
I will never worked it.
why I love playing
Maybe
there.
we should go this summer. It's at the end of the summer, right? Is it?
It's the last week of July.
Okay.
We're playing Thursday night, the night of the track.
When I think of the Boonville Fair, I think of the guy that got 2 DWIs in less than 24 hours. You ever had that happen?
Well, during the Boonville Fair one year, as a deputy, I came up here. I had a brand new police car. I got a drunk. On my way to the station, I got a second drunk. Put him in the back with the other drunk.
Oh my gosh.
Got a third one, and called the chief was working and said, "Hey, come get this guy. I already got 2, and I brought 3 in that night."
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
That's awesome.
I channel my
picture.
my inner
Yeah.
Jimmy, and this is from Dana. Took this from behind us, looking toward the.
Oh, that's
That's-
awesome.
I love that.
You can't ask for a better place to play.
You should,
No
you should
kidding,
send me
right?
some of those. I'll overlay them over the podcast.
Cool.
Yeah.
If you think of it, or
I'll do it right now.
yeah.
'Cause, I always stop
love it.
because one thing I learned a long time ago was take the picture.
Yeah.
I always, in the middle of a gig, in the middle of, I'll literally be singing a song and I'll hold my camera up and
Good
I'll
for
take
you.
some videos and pictures.
I used to be way more worried about looking like an idiot, taking selfies and pictures and stuff.
we
but
don't
now
really
I'm
care
like,
anymore. It doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah.
Like nobody cares.
I'm not big on selfies,
Oh, we do selfies
Do you?
for sure. Yeah.
but I just,
Yep.
I have a couple here. I just, you know, just like now, you want to go back and you never get that moment back in time.
Right.
I'm going to send this to you right now.
Yep. Sweet.
Yeah.
We have our summer schedule is going to be posted. I wanted to post it this weekend. Got one more thing I got to work on. Actually, it was a Harpoon Eddie's gig. They got a conflict, so they wanted us to change some dates. We'll probably have 30 gigs
Well,
this summer.
We'll definitely come down.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
like 2
absolutely.
seconds away anyway,
Yeah.
so no excuse.
actually, I want to talk to you before we leave. Just kind of go over some things that we have going on. Maybe you'd find some mutually beneficial ideas. I'm going to kill the recording, but first, obviously, I want to thank you.
Thank you guys.
Man,
Yeah, this was awesome.
This is awesome.
Whatever you do, don't stop doing this because you
Aw.
guys are phenomenal.
Thank
You're
you.
I appreciate that.
Well, we get
Easy
great
to-
guests on. We're thankful for our guests.
I can't wait to see some of them.
Yeah.
No, I've been creeping on your stuff.
Yeah, I really appreciate this, and yeah, I don't intend on stopping.
We can always do a round 2 at some point.
That's what I like to do, because I said to her, I'm like, man, like, I have changed so much in the past year, just
Yeah.
where we started to where we are now.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
confidence, and when you're doing this, being confident is everything.
You'll look back and you'll appreciate these, but
Yeah.
you'll be like, that wasn't me.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Like, that was horrible.
Yeah.
What are we
You know,
thinking?
I told you I do the national anthem. I've done it probably 40 times.
Yeah.
And the very first time I did it, I've been in a band for 20 some years. So singing to me in public, not a big deal.
Yeah.
I love public speaking. There's something about a national anthem. Everyone is looking at you.
Yeah.
I don't have my support behind me. So I have a drummer, a bass player, a couple guitar
And it's
players.
quiet, so everyone's being
Right.
respectfully quiet
Yeah.
for your voice.
It's you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I sang it the other morning, I was standing next to John Mannion, our congressman,
Yeah.
and he was singing next to me. And afterward, I go, "Thank you for at least keeping the same time I had because you didn't mess me up." But,
Yeah, yeah.
But it's. I look back at some of the first ones I've done. I'm like, oh my god, it wasn't. I don't think it was bad.
Yeah.
But it was like, now, when I did it the other day, there's zero hesitate. I feel like I should be there. I've done it for Utica Comets games where there's thousands of people there. I've done it for Utica College hockey. I've done it for probably 5 Utica Pioneers bowl games. And I'm literally, the hardest thing about doing it is not getting in your head because I'm standing on the 40-yard line, me, by myself,
Yeah.
and I'm going,
All these people.
what brought you to this point in your life
Yeah.
where you are alone on the 40-yard line in front of 3,000 people singing this song?
Man.
You know, and I can't stand when people do that song and they change one note of it
I know what you mean.
because
Yeah.
you're not making it about the song and what the song means. You're making it about you.
Yeah.
And it drives me insane. I'll watch somebody like, oh, they're doing. Oh,
Yeah.
Why?
Or I'm like trying to
Why
sing
do
along
that?
and I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
why do that?
Don't
Yeah.
modify it.
But
Right.
So I look at even the band. I look back at recordings of us from 15 years ago, like, ooh, you know. But now I'm so comfortable that it's like that is where I go for
Yeah.
relaxation. That's where I go to feel good.
Yeah.
You know, we practice once a week, and we all have a lot going on. And one of my guitar players has cancer. He just had his last chemo. We've had somebody filling in for him for a year. He told us at the end of a gig one night last year at Community Day in Westmoreland. He told us at the end of the gig, and we finished the gig with Lee Greenwood's "God Bless the USA," which I was asked to do at the Woodsman's Field Days. No, I'm sorry, at the Boonville Fair on the grandstand at the tractor pull this year alone to do God Bless the USA. And I said, yeah, sure.
I
But-
love that.
To at the end of a gig for my guitar player to tell me he's got cancer, so he's actually coming back. He just had his last chemo. He's gonna be back in the middle of February with us. So we're gonna have 3 good guitar players and me, and then the bass player and everybody else. So yeah, we're gonna have a good summer. But that's we come to practice and we all have stuff going on and family members sick and this happened and that happened and we drag ourselves to practice, and at the end of the night we're like, thank you. Thank you so
need it
much for
probably,
coming
right,
because
yeah.
this was the best therapy you could ask for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what I get out of this, man, just having these conversations. So not all of them. Some of them nervous as shit and feel awkward the whole time.
Or some of them just the vibe isn't there and we're like, but
Don't forget, like I said, first of all, everybody sees the world through their own lens.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you can't forget that.
Yeah.
And no one is as bad as you think they are. Nobody is as good as you think they are.
Yep.
You're never as good as you think you are.
Yeah.
And you're never as bad as you think you are.
Yep.
So everybody gets up, puts
Yep.
one shoe on at a time,
Yep.
and one foot in front of the other.
Yep.
So everybody started somewhere. Who's the best podcaster in the country right now?
the best one.
Arguably, I'd say Rogan or
Mel
I
Robbins, isn't she
really
there?
like Sean Ryan's.
Yeah.
I haven't watched much.
My
of
son
it.
got me into Sean Ryan.
Yeah.
I don't. He goes out on a fringe a little bit for me on
Yeah.
some things,
Yeah.
but my son got me into him. And here's a funny story. He interviewed Kent. What was his name?
Kent.
He was SEAL. And I go, I know this guy. I know this story. And it was a 3-hour interview. And I was listening to it back and forth from the state fair this year because my son, who's in the Army, told me about Sean Ryan, and had never heard of him. So my son said it's good, it's good. So I listened to this one episode, and it was about 2 hours in, and I went, he's talking about Shannon. Shannon Kent they were CIA, and she was blown up in a suicide bomb I think in Kabul.
Yeah.
Her father was my colonel in the state police.
Really?
Wow.
Like I knew him very well, and his daughter was killed in a.
Yeah.
She spoke multiple languages. She was extraordinarily intelligent. They had kids together. He had decided he was done chasing that around the world, and he was gonna. And this was like her last big thing, and she gets killed. Now he's raising.
That is so sad.
Raising their kids,
Wow.
but that's my first exposure to Sean Ryan. But so
Wow.
anyway, whoever you think is the best, Joe Rogan.
I mean, I don't like the word best but
They're
yeah, I
all
know what you mean.
different.
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
right,
you know,
right.
hands down Rogan. But
He started somewhere,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
and you're way past starting.
Yeah.
So
You know. Oh yeah,
Little
we
weird
have
sometimes.
13. This might be 14 episodes unedited, and I'm just like, we're doing it
to
ourselves
work.
right now.
What are
so
you doing?
if anybody sees this and they want to assist with the editing, or we just got to the point recently where we're kind of looking for sponsorship as well. I don't like asking for money.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
It's
We'll
weird.
figure it out though.
Yeah.
here I'm writing up an email to the village board for the January meeting. We got a grant here, and we got a decent sized grant, and the person that was running the police department before me ordered and had delivered to the motorsports place down the street a $32,000 side by side.
Oh wow.
I don't have tasers at work here. I don't have enough licenses for my body cameras. I don't have a bunch of equipment that I need to make my guys safe. I can't justify spending that money.
Yeah.
Right.
So I went to him the other day, and I'd never met him before, and introduced myself, and he goes, "Oh, you're here to see the side-by-side?" I'm like, "Yeah, kinda." So he takes me out and shows me. He goes, "Oh, we just finished putting the lights on it today." And I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay." He goes, "What do you need?" I says, "Well, I was going to see if maybe you could make more money selling it to the public than you can to me." He goes, "I absolutely can, because, we give the government a reduced rate and everything, but I already have the lights in it." I'm like, "Okay, I'll take it. I just wanted to see if maybe I could not take it, because really we don't have any business buying that right now."
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, Lewis County has ordered the same one, and it's over there covered with snow." He goes, "I could see if they want yours, and I'll sell theirs." Okay. So I talked to the board here, and we're all in agreement. I said, tell me honestly what you think of this side by side. And they're like, it's a dumb idea. But it was free money,
Right.
you know, from a grant. But I said, if I can't put food on my table, if I can't provide my kids with shoes and jackets and stuff in the winter, I can't justify taking them to Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
that's us taking them to Disneyland.
Yeah.
And I said, it's awesome. I would love to drive around that thing. For
Yeah.
the 2 times of the year that I can use it is the Boonville Fair and the Woodland Field Days.
Yeah.
For the rest of the year, it's going to sit in my garage or sit outside covered with snow. And I got people out there without working tasers and without working body
Yeah,
cameras and without
yeah.
stuff. And I go,
Yep.
I can't justify it. So I'm writing the letter to the board
Sweet.
saying how we're not buying it.
Yep.
You know, I can use that money for something to make life better.
So smart though. Like,
It hurt, and I talked
Yeah.
to, and there were a couple of my people that did a lot of work and research to get it. And I, before I even said it out loud, I called them and I was like, "Look, I know you have a lot invested in this, maybe emotionally, but here's my thinking." And every one of them said, "You're right." Like,
Okay.
it's
Cool.
not an easy decision.
Yeah.
right.
You know, because it's that newest, shiniest thing. But when I've gone through the station, I found a bunch of the newest, shiniest things that are covered in dust,
Yep.
that are useless now
Right.
because somebody thought it'd be cool,
Yeah.
Yep.
but it doesn't do anything to help
Yep.
us or the community.
Yeah, sometimes people don't think about that stuff, so you just bring it to their attention.
Yeah.
I mean, who would say, "No, I want that side by
Yeah.
side instead"? You know.
And the other thing too is I'm actively on a trek to meet with a whole bunch of elected officials and ask them for money. I need money for things. One of the cars in the garage is a 2014.
Oh, wow.
That's ancient in police years.
Yeah.
That's ancient. It's 11 years old. It's, I don't believe, safe for us to be operating. And how can I go and ask an elected official for $60,000 for a vehicle when I got a $30,000 side-by-side sitting out here covered in snow or dust
Yes.
that we frivolously spent money on?
Yep.
So,
No, that makes sense.
Maybe someday you can have all of it. You
Yeah.
know, but right now.
right? No, and that's what I said. We'll circle back if we can.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I wouldn't sleep at night if one of my people got hurt because I was able to get him something.
They
Wasn't able to get him something, and I bought that thing.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
So
Well, Dave, I again appreciate this.
Yeah.
appreciate you very much. I
Yeah.
really do.
Cool.
I love what you're doing. I'm catching your. Since I've been up here, I haven't been able to spend nearly as much time, trolling online. But I catching some of your TikToks too.
Oh, nice. Some of them are a little weird, but it's fun.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
neat. But it brings you further into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just trying to play the game, I guess, and yeah.
Yeah, it's hard having to do all the TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, like all that stuff. It's just so, and my brain can only handle so much on my phone.
I'm all linked. Like I'm 99% linked. Everybody I've met has been through LinkedIn. I haven't needed. I created a Podmatch account
Yeah.
to meet people that want to be guests. And it's like it. And I don't mean this in an arrogant way. It kind of sounds it, but like it was flooded within like a couple weeks. Like I just couldn't even get back to the people, and so I disabled that. Don't even need it. Just LinkedIn's more than enough, and I can't keep up to
Right
that.
now,
so,
it's
yeah.
working. Yeah.
Just like with our real estate stuff, Dana, I'm spoiled rotten. I pick up my briefcase with my drone in it. I drive her to wherever it is. Usually costs me lunch for her. I drive home, I set it down, and it magically ends up in a video a few days later. She does everything.
Nice.
So that whole thing. And I asked her the other day, I have the Boonville Police Facebook page now.
Yeah.
And I asked her, I go, please don't let me get stagnant on it. Make sure.
Yeah.
So if I try to take pictures of my people in action and put it on there, and I took the picture of the car in the snow the other day and put it on there. So
Cool.
I know it's such an upkeep. I think I have maybe 7 Facebook pages right now
Oh,
for
wow.
different organizations I'm part of and different things.
Repurpose would help them.
Do you, repurpose.ai or .io rather? You can stage, post, schedule them automatically. What it does for us. Here, well, I'll kill this first.
Yeah.
But thank you all for tuning in. Take care.
Like, bye.